Some of the content of Patriots Unfiltered may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The world's original podcast.
Welcome to Patriots Unfiltered.
Fred and I usually anchor the parade coverage from right here in the studio.
I've never been to one parade.
No,
I thought they'd
Fred
have
and I
a-
do not go to the
They
parade.
didn't have a PU duck boat? That would
No,
sound
I'm
like
sure they
had
did,
to.
but we're just not on it.
Yeah,
Who was on it, Scal?
We're working.
I was on the duck boat.
The Boston area in general, in all four sports, I think they sometimes have a hard time attracting high-end free agent talent.
But I think it's more also like in those places there's other celebrities. As
You're not a big
famous as-
deal.
We've got Keith Lockhart.
I don't understand how it gets such a bad rep.
Especially if you have
cold.
kids.
It's not that cold. Like, grow up.
I mean, Bobby Spillane, I think,
Yeah.
Bobby.
you know, he seems like he's ready to do it today.
He looks like a company guy with a polo, the
I know.
hat.
You see all these
He's
guys,
ready to
these
go.
big guys come up. And
They got the
looks like the
Gucci
guy-
on.
yeah,
They
he
got
He
the
looked like the guy who
glasses.
organized it for the team.
Right. It's like, why did the guy from Food and Beverage get up
Listen,
there?
lunch pail guy.
Different voice, obviously. He reminds me a little bit of Talib.
Wow.
Yeah.
I never got to talk to Talib, but yeah.
Always using that.
He'll hold a bake sale for Mike.
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Presented by Toyota's official website for deals, buyatoyota.com.
All right, welcome to Patriots Unfiltered. It is Tuesday here at Gillette Stadium, and boy, do we have a lot to talk about. It's Deuce, it's Evan, it's Paul, it's me, it's Matt in the booth, and Deuce, you have riled up Patriots Nation like I've never seen it riled up before with your 1.0 mock draft and picking Ashton Genty,
Yeah.
4th overall. We're going to get into all that. We're going to have your
Come at me, bro.
we're going to have your reasoning for
we
that.
will.
Yeah.
No, I look forward to it.
Yeah.
I look forward to the conversation, Evan. Although some people thought I just did it to troll. Not trolling.
No, we
I think
talked
it's worth a little conversation, and
We talked about it. I'm gonna, not that if I was the person making the pick, that's the pick I would make, but I get your reasoning, and I'm gonna back you up here.
All
I'm
right.
gonna back you up. I don't think I'd have the nerve to make that pick, but I'm not saying it would be a bad pick.
I think
Does
it's
that
gonna
make
be-
any sense?
I understand. I think it's going to be a fun discussion. Passionate.
All right. What else we got? What's going on, Patriots Nation?
Ted McMillan's running 40s.
He got under 4.6, huh? He got under.
Cut under 4.6.
It was like he came in at 4.5 and then
Pro
like 4.8.
day under 4.6, which
Yeah.
is highly in question.
Yeah, that's well, yesterday, Jordan Schultz reports 4.48, and this is kind of the reason why people get annoyed with Jordan Schultz, because he comes out and he posts 4.48 was his time, and then the real times start trickling in from everybody else that isn't his agent or whatever, and it's 4.45, 4.47, something closer to that. But everybody remembers 4.48 because that was the first thing that was reported.
Yeah. Do you think that there's a little bit of BS going on at the top of the draft with the report that Tennessee's going to pick Cam Ward, but if another team offered them a boatload, they might be willing to move down? Do you think that that's a lot of BS because they aren't, in fact, they don't want to draft Cam Ward. They do want to move down.
Well, this is smokescreen season now. Now
Yeah.
we're in the thick of it. The initial wave of free agency is over, and so now we're really getting into pro days and draft, and this is when all the false reports and the smokescreens start flying around as this time of year. And I there's no trades yet. Like every team owns their original draft pick in the first round, and if that holds, it's going to be the first time ever that's happened. So I think that what that tells you is it's not a great draft where teams feel like we have to have this guy and we have to move up and we have to move around the board to secure that player. So I'm sure the Titans would love to trade out of first overall to who?
But see, that's my point. If they would love to trade out, that means they don't think Cam Ward's that good. Because if you really believe Cam Ward can be your quarterback of the future, you're not willing to trade out.
Yeah, I don't think anybody thinks he's that good.
Right.
And that's the problem.
So it's BS.
Yeah.
They don't want to pick Cam Ward.
It's the same as the Patriots
yeah.
last year, I feel like, when they kind of knew they wanted Drake or Jaden Daniels, and we'll listen to offers, but it's got to be something amazing that we can't turn down, and we're not going to put it out there that we're not listening to offers at all. So
I think
keep
it's
the door
opposite
open,
of that. I'm with Fred.
Yeah.
I don't think they have any intention.
Right.
Or if they take them, they're going to take him holding their nose.
If you believe that
I don't
there's a
think they want him. I think the Patriots wanted May.
Right.
All right. Yeah, no,
Daniels.
that's a good
Right.
point. That's
And
a
I
good
think
point.
Fred
Yeah.
is right. I think they're trying to hold someone
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, if you
I like
believe
that better.
if you
Yeah.
believe in front of you is the quarterback of the future, there is no trade offer that would make you trade down. You've got the guy. They don't think he's the guy.
Well, just in comparison, at the combine, the Bears gave Caleb Williams the playbook and said, "Get going."
Exactly.
Right. Let's get started. The Jaguars
Right.
did it with Trevor Lawrence as well in that draft. There was no question that that was who they were picking. Now the networks and stuff will drum up controversy just to get clicks and get it, views and stuff like that. But Caleb Williams was the Bears' pick since basically January
Right.
of that offseason. So this is not the case with this draft. But I keep coming back to the same thing, and it's true with the Patriots at 4. Like, who's trading up? Like, if you are sitting there saying, we don't want to pick anybody here, nobody wants to pick anyone there, right? And there's no value to the picks, and that's why I think everybody is staying put right now. And there hasn't been a major trade in the draft because I just don't think anybody's worth it in this class.
And I think all of this ties in to the reasoning for Mike's pick for Ashton Genty.
Well,
Because if you look at best players available, Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter top the list. And I think you can make the case after those two, from a pure football standpoint, best of his class, could be, a player that might have a Hall of Fame future. It's Ashton Genty.
Yeah. I mean, I think like a lot of people that had criticism for it, I don't think read it. I mean, they look at what the graphic is on Twitter, but they don't really look at the explanation. But I mean, I said, look, if Hunter or Carter are there, they sign me up all day long.
But you don't think they will be. It's a
I don't
mock
think
draft.
they will be, and I also don't think, to Evan's point, that anybody's going to be clamoring to trade up for the 4th pick. So, for a lot of people who, their response was, you got to trade out of it. Well, okay, but who do you pick if not? And otherwise, you're going to deal with an issue at that position, right? I mean, Evan just came out with, he just dropped his mock draft to wipe the slate clean of mine, clear the board, so to speak. But Will Campbell, great pick, but some questions. Tech McMillan, I can see it. Some questions, and that's kind of where I came to this edition of the mock draft.
Yeah, and I understand where Fred's going, because I said the same thing. Like, I would not take Genty at 4. I don't necessarily believe in the position that high, but I completely understand the thought process. I would just push back and say, well, why is Genty that guy? Why is it not Tyler Warren, or why is it not Will Campbell? To Evan's point. Why does it have to be Genty as the next best player of the draft? Now, if that's Mike's view and thought, more power to you. But I don't necessarily look at Genty as like this Hall of Fame caliber running back. And if you pass up on him, you're losing out on an opportunity.
Well,
maybe he will be, but maybe Will Campbell will be a Hall of Fame guard. Maybe
Yeah.
Tyler Warren will be a Hall of Fame tight end.
It's
Who
all a
knows?
matter of
or the Georgia guys that I know Mike likes a
Yeah.
lot too.
It's right. It's all a matter of who, though, do you think is most likely to be the best at their position?
Right. I don't think Genty is that.
Yeah. See, I
personally.
do. I do.
Now,
I just don't have the
think he
guts
has
to
that
pick him.
kind of explosiveness. But here's where I'm going to really defend Mike and probably irritate Evan, because Evan and I are lockstep on the running back thing. But by all accounts, I haven't really seen very many mock drafts that don't have Genty in the top 10.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the top 10.
He went in 6 in Jeremiah's that he just
Okay,
dropped.
so is it really like a farce? And we're going to get to some of the comments that Mike, got yesterday. Is it really a farce that we're going to take a guy who was projected at 7 at 4?
I think it's the position.
Is that cause for like revolt?
Well, I understand
Sorry,
where
Ev.
I also
Yes, it is.
understand where the revolt's coming from. They want to win today. Who is going to help Drake May the most? And they're looking at wide receiver and tackle.
Well, a running back could
But
help.
there's no
but that's the
that's-
point.
yeah, that's
I
the
think
whole
they're
argument.
overlooking what a generational running back. Okay.
You refer to this guy in a way that I'm not comfortable with.
Fine. Okay, but an elite running back can do for an offense.
I mean that's part of the argument, and I think that's something that is a worthwhile conversation. Who helps Drake May the most? Is it Will Campbell as a left tackle? Probably, certainly, if he's very good. Is he a left guard? Maybe a little bit less, but still helps him a little bit.
Yeah.
Tyler Warren? Yeah, that moves the needle. But if you were to live in the place where, let's let's go optimistic on Ashton Genty, and he is that guy, and he is as good as, LaDainian Tomlinson is the comp in NFL.com. But let's just play along. I think that helps Drake May if you put LaDainian Tomlinson into this offense because
Oh, I would too.
he's a guy who can.
If it were
He's
available.
going to take some.
He's a top 5 running back of all time.
Right.
Right.
Like,
Well, okay.
That's
Well,
why I
let's,
said
but
I'm
let's
just
play
not
the
comfortable
game.
with the description of Genty.
Right.
Like, do you think Saquon Barkley is that?
Yes.
What do you do for the Giants?
Well, do you blame the Giants or do you blame Barkley for that? I mean,
Both.
he had a lot of injuries.
I think he is what he is.
Yeah.
He's a running back, and most of those guys are wildly reliant on the blocking.
Right.
Yeah.
There are very few guys like Barry Sanders who it doesn't matter what you do for the block. He's just going to make plays.
Sure. Fair point. But I think
But in some of the scouting reports, that's what some people view Genty as, a guy that can offset some
really do that
deficiencies
against
at
Penn
the
State.
offensive line.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that, where I would have pushback on Genty is just you're putting the cart before the horse. Like, you don't have an offensive line behind this, in front of this running back for him to run behind. And so, how is Ashton Genty going to make dudes miss in the backfield?
run and run right
Yeah.
behind Morgan Moses and Onwenu.
Okay, and so the backside's just going to have no factor on the play? Like,
You build that
I-
wall behind. You know how to do it.
I know.
You know how to build the wall
But it still
behind.
just goes back to you can't choose what order you get things. And,
That's true.
Look, this
That
is.
part is
I mean,
true.
if this guy did end up being LaDainian and you can't tell me that that's not a home run pick for the Patriots. Now I get Paul's point that he probably is not going to be that good. I mean, in a perfect world, you'd love to find what was Curtis Martin, a 3rd-round pick, that comes in and, maybe has a little bit of a similar effect for Bledsoe in the offense and rounds things out a little bit. They were able to get Terry Glenn, obviously. I mean, not to throw it too far back, but I just see it as this was the worst run offense in the league last year, according to DVOA. They were 32nd. And a lot of people are, well, they have Ramondre. Did anyone feel great about Ramondre Stevenson right now?
No, but I think the bigger problem with Ramondre Stevenson is his inability to hold on to the ball. I don't really necessarily have a huge problem with his running style
'Cause
or
he's
ability.
fine, right?
Yeah, I don't think he's anything special.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
Yeah.
he's a
This comes
run-of-the-mill
down-
back.
This comes down to, do you think Genty's special?
And
And
my
that's-
but I
answer is
don't
no,
think it just
but-
comes down to that, though, because like Saquon Barkley is special, Christian McCaffrey is special. They did nothing for Carolina and the Giants. They did nothing for either team, and the issue
But
is
neither of those teams have quarterbacks.
okay, but like who's he throwing to and who's protecting him? Like you have a passing offense. You can't build an efficient passing offense without protection and receivers. So like when you take a guy like Genty, your best case scenario for a guy like Genty is like Zeke Elliott in Dallas. But Zeke Elliott in Dallas is running behind Tyron Smith and Zach Martin and future Hall of Fame offensive linemen. So when he comes into the league at I think it was 4 overall to the Cowboys that year, like he's got a whole infrastructure around him.
Well,
And-
I think this is where the outrage comes from. The people don't think they have that infrastructure. It's just a wasted
But see,
pick.
this sounds like the same argument to me that we got from Drake May last year, where you can't. I remember Tommy
Right.
Curran telling me you can't draft Drake May. You have no offensive line.
Right,
You
but the
can't protect
quarterback
him.
moves the needle more
You
than the
know?
running back can.
True.
So like it's a more
But you
valuable
can't pick.
position.
But now you have the quarterback, and you're trying to add good football players to this team because
Yeah,
they
that's
don't
why
have a
I
lot of
understand
them.
Mike's.
Yeah.
I understand Mike's rationale. I
Yeah.
mean, we've talked about it off air. I disagree with it, but like I totally understand it.
Well, that's
I know what he's
why I
saying.
think I just think this is good conversation and it's good debate and it's rather than sitting around.
But
doing
the point
another
is, you didn't just throw it out there just to get clicks.
No,
No,
and the other
no.
part of this that comes into it, and Mike did the mock
You
draft.
are demented. That's
But Mike did the mock draft with Carter and Hunter gone. Now, the more time is going on, the more people are putting mock drafts together, and both of those quarterbacks are going in the top 3, which is going to leave one of those 2 guys. And Mike, I think, would be the first one to admit, if Carter or Hunter is available, you're
have to
taking
pick one of them.
one of those guys, not Genty.
That's right. And I think we
And
all agree
you
with
guys
that,
had a
right?
couple. Was it Jeremiah and
Mel
Kiper?
Kiper,
Now
yeah.
suddenly have both
Suddenly
quarterbacks
Shedeur
in the top
Sanders
3.
is-
I would be surprised if that happens. I'm with you, Fred. I'm very skeptical of what I'm hearing at this time of year,
Oh, yeah.
especially with guys that are just so imperfect as prospects.
Yeah, I would like to do a study of what the results of the draft actually are compared to what the chatter is at different times. And my hypothesis is that the early talk right after the college football season as to where guys are going to go is the most accurate talk. and then as it goes, you get all
Things
these
get crazy
iterations.
right
it
after
gets
the
crazy.
seat, yeah.
But if you go back to the
That's where it
first
went, yeah.
impressions,
See, I
based on
disagree a
tape,
little.
that might, and just
But
it's
who's
just
but
a
who's
hypothesis.
but whose impressions?
Yeah.
Once the scouts start doing it,
Well, no, the
No,
draft.
because
the
I think
media gets
I
involved.
think what happens when guys fluctuate wildly is the draft experts, the college football draft nicks,
Yeah.
don't know what the NFL is going to do. And
Yeah.
once the NFL starts looking, that's when they fall into play. I don't think within the NFL there's as much like, oh, this guy everybody thought was going number 10 and he ended up going 38. I don't think that happens in the NFL.
Unless there's something off the field going
Right,
on with the
right,
player.
right.
Yeah.
But I agree.
Do you know
with-
what I'm saying?
A
Like how-
100%.
like,
Yeah, I
I
agree
think the
with Paul.
GMs are very consistent.
We catch up to them.
Yes.
Not the other way around. So as more information starting to come out about these players, we always talk about the combine. Most of these teams know who's going to test well and who's going to test poorly at the combine. So I'll give you an example like Armand Membu, from Missouri. He has been for teams a top prospect in this class since January. Now the media is seeing his combine and they're watching the film again and they're getting more information about the player and they're figuring out things that the scouts and the GMs have known for months. And so I think a lot of the media fodder is catching up to the NFL. So I would actually say we learn a little bit more about it later on in the process, especially at the combine. Like once we get to the combine, they've already had their kind of fall scouting meetings, or we kind of are past that point, and they start to set the board a little bit in February. That's when the teams are really starting to hammer down who's truly in play at like 4 overall.
Like at the end of the season, it was Campbell and Banks, Campbell and Banks, Campbell and Banks. I don't hear anything about Banks anymore.
Right.
And the only thing I hear about Campbell is his arm length. Because I think the NFL looks at it differently than the draft experts.
I think that's a great example, though.
I'm not disparaging the draft. I think a lot of these guys do a lot of work on these prospects.
Yep.
But I don't think they know where they're going to go.
Right. That's what I think it's hard to read in between the lines on Will Campbell as his arm length, because I think on one hand the NFL's telling you that it really does matter, and but we're still kind of circling back to him now at this point. So I don't know.
So I had a thing I heard on the radio this morning, and I didn't see it. I meant to actually look it up.
So your shows?
One of your shows?
Yeah. Or just the
Well,
radio?
someone said that Sports Illustrated had a projected trade, a proposal with San Francisco. Did you see this?
Yeah, I don't know why we entertain trades like this. Like,
All right, so I just want to. I'm going
Like,
to.
can
I'm
we
going to
just-
state. I'm going to state the
can we
trade,
just-
and I want to know what you guys
can we
think.
just live in like a real world?
Okay, so evidently Evan's with me.
Bart's
not in
mock draft
fantasy
So
land.
it's the Patriots and the Niners swapping picks from 4 to 11, and the Patriots get Brandon Ayuk and a second-round pick.
Okay. I mean, Brandon Ayuk he'd have to be dragged here, right?
No, just forget that.
Okay. Well,
San Francisco is moving up 7 spots in the draft, and in return, giving you Brandon Ayuk and a second-round pick. That doesn't seem odd to you?
no.
I would fire John Lynch on the spot if he made that trade.
I would do it
if I
I'm
was
the
Jet,
Patriots.
if I was the Patriots, I would
But
run
the- but
to get
there's
it signed.
But I read a report today on Twitter that what's getting lost in the whole Brandon Ayuk thing is the 49ers really don't want to pay him.
No, but what I'm saying is, if you're trading a talent like Brandon Ayuk,
Yeah.
you shouldn't have to be giving up a second-round pick and only moving up 7 spots. So to move up 7 spots, you're giving up a really good player and a very valuable pick.
Yep.
That doesn't seem like out of whack. Am I the only? Did you?
Well, I think
look
we're looking at it
this?
from Patriots' perspective of
from the
give it to me.
Patriots, I'll do
Yes,
that
right.
all day,
But-
every day. That's what the
but-
Patriots want.
but-
Now they don't have to
but
worry
you're
about Ted
keeping your
McMillan.
first.
They can go down and get a tackle. Maybe Membo's available at 11.
But you're keeping your first-round pick.
They're moving up 7 spots.
Right.
That's it. That's all they got. They get 7 spots in the draft.
No, but they don't get our.
They're getting 4. You're getting 11.
Oh, so you're getting their
You're
first
swap-
as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're swapping.
Oh, I thought you
You're
were.
swap-
I thought
that's what
we
I'm
were-
saying. It's a pick swap.
I thought we were only getting Ayuk in their second.
No, plus you're moving up. Plus
It's
you're
a
you're
pick
moving
swap.
down
But
7
and
spots.
you're swapping.
So the
first.
Patriots are
Okay,
moving
so
down
now-
7 spots
No,
and getting.
Oh, so now I agree. Lynch should be fired.
Like,
Because I thought you were just getting Ayuk in their second.
now, unless this was, Mike is right. It was on one of my shows this morning with Hardy and Fred had said that that was the proposal that Sports Illustrated threw out there. I did not see the proposal. Maybe he did not accurately portray the proposal.
Oh,
but that's what he
if
said.
I'm getting their first, their second, and Ayuk, Lynch should be fired. There's no way they would do it.
Just for 7 spots?
Yeah, there's no way. But
Like,
if they're not
that's
giving up
insane.
a first, then I could see.
To say nothing
And I
of the
can see
fact
the
that what
Patriots
is
still doing
available
that.
at 4 that you like
Yeah.
that you know of,
Yeah.
you know?
So
No, you still have 11, so
yeah.
let's go to 11.
Back on planet Earth.
But
I
we-
just thought that was like,
But if
wow.
if they
like,
weren't,
really?
if there wasn't a first round swap, would you do it if you were the Patriots?
No,
So you're giving up 4 for Ayuk in a second?
Yeah,
I would
it's a
not.
little bit more feasible, right?
Yeah, it's definitely feasible.
Yeah.
I would not.
Because
Okay.
now you got to worry about Ayuk's health.
Well,
too.
no, I got to worry about Ayuk. He doesn't want to come here.
Yeah, but that's something you work out before you
I
make
know,
a trade.
but-
I'm
Like,
way
he-
more
you-
concerned about his knee.
Yeah, he's on board
Yeah,
if you're making that trade.
Yeah.
You're not making that trade blind.
yeah.
You probably don't know this, Paul, but who was San Francisco trading up to get?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, what is the 4th pick? Like, I guess it would be contingent upon one of
Hunter.
those two being available.
Yeah.
But I just don't.
Would
I
you
think
do it if
that's-
Hunter was there? I mean,
I
that
think it's
changes
way
it
too
a little
much.
bit for me too. Like, I mean,
I still
aside
think you're
from the
giving up way
lopsided
too
comes in-
much.
Right.
If you're San Francisco, it's either Ayuk or this. Like, it's not both.
Can I throw out a little playoff thing? It has to do more with the other sports, other 3 sports, than football. But it just occurred to me, it's a playoff adaptation. So let's just take the NBA. You get into the playoffs the same way as always. You know, based on your record, then you get seeded. Everything stays the same. But once you get into the individual series, the home court advantage is dictated by the head-on-head season matchup. So let's just say the first seed is playing the 6th seed or whatever. If it just so happens that the 6th seed has a better record against that team, they get the home court. It's a little bit of incentive to make the regular season games more valuable, because you never know who you're going to be playing in the playoffs. And if I don't have the better record against them in the regular season, I could lose home court advantage.
But why
So
would you
why-
try against the teams that aren't in the playoffs?
Well, no. So if the teams are that bad that they're out, then of
No,
course.
but why
I'm just
wouldn't-
saying it's a little bit of juice.
But why wouldn't the same juice be generated by trying to win so you have the better record and therefore can host?
No, because you always try to do that, but there's a lot of games where you just take it off.
Right. So what's going to change? Like, you're not going to know who you're playing in the playoffs,
No,
so
you
you don't know which
That's-
games
that's
that you
the
can't
point.
take off.
That's the point. You don't know who you're going to. So every game becomes a little bit more valuable when
I
you're
disagree.
playing. When you're
I
when-
think Mike
Well,
does
the good
too.
team. Well, the good teams against it might get a little bit, but against the bad teams, it's not.
no, and the
Yeah,
bad.
like
There's
the-
nothing you can do about
Like the
bad
Celtics
teams.
want to finish with the best record they can so they can host as many rounds in the playoffs as they can.
Yeah.
Not necessarily we need to beat the Indiana Pacers because we might play them in a 2-7 matchup.
Well, but that's the point.
But
So-
I just have to have the better record, so I need to try. Like, I don't understand why my effort is changing.
But now the better record doesn't always help you. If you didn't try against the Pacers, and you ended
So
up
you're
losing
actually
the season,
punishing the team for trying during the season
no,
because they didn't try in the right games.
I'm rewarding the team for trying during the season.
By having a better record. That's how you
no,
try.
but if I didn't try in a game against the Pacers, if I didn't try against a game against the Pacers, and they end up having a better season record against us, I could lose home court. So I have to try against every team that I might play in the playoffs.
Okay, but what about the teams that you're not going to play in the playoffs?
Well, but those.
Okay, but like, there's already not a lot of incentive in the NBA example for the Celtics to try against like the Washington Wizards.
Right.
Like the Celtics could roll the bench out there
I
and
know,
beat
but
the
there's
Wizards.
nothing I can do about, and they're never going to try in those games. So
Right,
who
but now I
cares?
try even less because the head-to-head is the only thing that matters. So all they have to invest in is Milwaukee, Indiana,
But the seedings
Knicks,
still are
like,
the seedings are still there in terms of who you're going to play in the playoffs. That remains the same.
But don't you always try against the teams that you perceive to be good?
Well, again, if
Like,
you're the
like Evan's point, like we're going to take the Brooklyn game off.
no, but
we're
I
gonna
know,
take
but
the Wizards
but if
game
you're the
off.
Pacers and you end up having a better season record against the Celtics, there's no reward.
There shouldn't be.
I think there should be.
Not if you don't have as good a record.
it's an 82
like-
game sample.
If the Jets beat the Patriots twice but finish with an inferior record, they're not hosting the playoff game.
But football's
Like-
different. That's why I said it doesn't really
No,
apply
but
to football
like,
because you don't have.
I don't think it's unfair.
Yeah.
Like the other team has a better record.
No, I'm not saying it's. I'm just trying a little bit extra juice for some games in the NBA.
Well, you get
and
into,
it could work in the NHL too.
Like,
we
I
get
think-
into April and the season with the Pacers season series is 3-3.
Right.
And this game in April might decide where a
Right.
playoff run.
So instead of like sitting guys to rest them, I need to play them.
Well, I mean, I was just at. Unfortunately, they lost, but I was at the Celtics Thunder game, and that was not
Yeah, that was they.
a low stakes game.
No.
That's what I'm saying. There's games like that
both
against
teams were
playoff teams. They're
both
gonna
teams are missing guys,
But you don't lose that in this thing. You don't lose that incentive either. You're just adding.
But you're not adding any incentive.
Yes, you are.
No,
you're
you're
adding,
not.
He just said it.
Yeah, and that off chance that scenario happens at the end of the season.
And you have no way of knowing what that team is. You're talking about like a 1 in a million shot. Like, oh, we're playing the Knicks in the playoffs, and we have the Knicks in April, and the season series is tied. Like, what are the odds of that?
I don't know. But I'm just saying that you don't know who you're going to play in the playoffs.
I would-
especially in the
I would
early,
rather
especially early in the season.
If I were Adam Silver, I'd rather reward the team that wins the most games to ensure that they play as hard as they can in as many of those 82 as
Well,
they can.
you are rewarding
than cherry picking
See,
one or
I-
two
I-
teams.
they're getting
yeah.
the reward by the seed. That doesn't go away.
I think that the problem with the NBA is that there's not enough incentive for finishing the season with a better record. Because now, I mean, it used to be back in the day that home court advantage mattered a little bit in the NBA, but it's evening out more and more as the years go on. So, like now, if you're a team like the Celtics that
They have their crooked refs.
that have are a proven commodity, a defending champion, like they're not going to empty the tank in the regular season because they'll get to the playoffs and everybody will be healthy and they'll
That's what they do.
they'll
But
get
that
it rolling.
exists now.
Right.
That exists
but,
now.
But that's because the only thing that's disincentivizing you is that Game 7 won't be in your home arena. That's it. And if you're the Celtics, you're saying Game 7.
We're not gonna get to
We're
Game
not going to
7.
get to Game 7. So what difference does it make?
Yeah, well,
right.
I think you home court advantage is still something you want.
Statistically, it matters less and less, especially in the NBA. It used to be a really heavy weight to home court advantage because of the referee. The refs used to give hometown calls and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't happen as much anymore. And so now it's pretty even. Like you can go into another team's arena in the playoffs and win. It's not unheard of. So to me, it's like why, the Celtics are, off the pace with the Cavs or the number 1 seed. Like why are the Celtics emptying the tank in the last 5 weeks of the season to try to catch Cleveland?
Yeah.
Like we'll meet Cleveland in the playoffs. We'll have 3 games on our home court and we'll see who wins.
Yeah. I just think if there's any way that you can incentivize each game to be more important, like if teams go in like we want to win every season series against every team, I think that's a good thing.
See, I think to make it more important is, I guess what I'm getting at, is that I think that the home team or the team with the better record should have more home games than just 4 versus 3. Because I don't think it's enough of an incentive. Because if you're a really good team like Boston, you're thinking to yourself, what the worst case scenario is that we have a coin flip Game 7 in Cleveland. That's the worst case scenario. And so we'll take our chances, right? Like we think we're the better team, we'll take our chances. But if a series was this team got 5 home games to 2 home games, now all of a sudden
Now I can listen to that.
now all of a sudden it makes more sense.
Okay.
Or let's say the first 3 games of the series are all in Cleveland.
Okay.
Right?
But it's the same. It's giving more importance to that season series.
it's giving more importance to the regular season.
Yeah,
Because
right.
I think right now, and it happens every time, like the Nuggets, the Celtics, the Warriors at the end, they don't care. Like they'll just get to the playoffs and they have more moxie
Right.
and they have more experience.
I
and
think
they'll win.
your way is going to actually have unintended consequences. I think teams could say, well, we don't really care about the regular season, but we're going to empty the bucket in those 4 games against the Celtics because that's all we care about. We need to have that home court against them.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if we don't have as good a record as they do.
Yeah.
So we'll rest all our guys more than we normally would
Right.
because all we got to do is worry about those 4 games.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I would rather have, like, for the Celtics, 82 games, what did you say? There's probably maybe 20 that they looked at and said, the 2 against Denver, the 2 against OKC, the Knicks games, the Bucks games,
Cleveland now.
Cleveland. You know,
But that's one of the
that's what they're
problems
focusing
in
on. Well,
the
that's because the
NBA.
league stinks.
Right. There's only
There's
so
only
many
6
teams
good
at that
teams.
level. Right.
The West is better than the East.
The
but-
West is way better.
But
than the
when you
East.
look at, the Celtics again, like every time they play one of those teams that you mentioned, it's a pseudo playoff game.
They try.
It's all hands on deck, and they
Yeah.
put a lot
Minus
into
Porzingis,
it.
but anyway.
Well, yeah, but he's a wild card to begin with. But like you have those are real games. Like I am a sicko, so I watch every single game. But like there's a big difference between the game against Brooklyn the other night and the OKC game that I went to last
Sure.
week. Right, and that's just
And you see this, you could tell the scores when the Celtics took they beat Utah like a week and a half ago by like 6 points. The game that the two of them had 40,
yeah.
right? Then they beat Brooklyn by 2 the other night. Like,
Yeah.
when they took the foot off the gas.
Yeah.
There's no way that they're only beating Utah by 6 points if they're giving in an honest effort. But, the game against Cleveland, the game against OKC, those were wars.
Yeah.
Those were really hard fought. The game that they beat Denver on like the Sunday afternoon, that was a hard fought, well played game.
Yep.
But there's just not enough of them in that league. And
All
that
right.
was our NBA Minute,
Yeah.
brought to you by
All
All
Fred
right,
right,
Kirsch.
it was just
about
something
that.
I was thinking about to just
I thought
give
this
a
was
little
a
bit more
football
juice
show.
to these regular season games. All right, 855-PATS-500 is the Ace Ticket hotline. No, I'm sorry, it's just the hotline. Nobody sponsors it
It's the Paul Perillo
until
hotline.
April. And then podcast@patriots.com is the email address. Getting a lot of people want to weigh in. I can't imagine what they want to weigh in. So let's start with Todd, North Carolina. What's up, Todd?
Hey guys, it's been an interesting conversation, but I just like to relate some of the conversations that I've heard around here. I don't know why, but I'm in the middle of a Pittsburgh fan base, and there's tons of them, and they're really serious about if Shador's still available at 4. They want the Tomlin to do whatever it takes to get up there and get him, because they feel like Tomlin's, his tenure is coming to a close sooner than later, and they think they have enough talent now to maybe make it somewhere.
So you're saying
So
the
what would
Pittsburgh
that
fans
trade
want Shador?
be like? Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what they're interested in. So I'll take the answer up there. Thanks.
All right, thanks.
Joe.
I think so. It's the biggest question in the
I mean,
draft, I think, from
yeah.
our perspective, is what teams really want him and are willing to spend capital to get up and get him. And I think I'm still skeptical.
Well,
it sounds nice for the fans. I don't know if the team
Pittsburgh's
wants
picking 21, so
I
like,
just can't see that.
Yeah,
I don't
and
know how
I
the
guess we
Patriots
have
are
to
in
talk
the
about
house.
it.
Yeah.
If we're going to talk about the Steelers, we have to talk about Aaron Rodgers
Right.
because he's now connected to them. He says he's going to reveal his decision on Thursday.
I love how he acts like it's his decision.
Right. And who was it from the Steelers on his account said either you're a Steeler or you're not. Either you want to be with us or not, aiming that at Aaron Rodgers. And I agree. Like, if you're a Steelers player, it's like, screw you.
Yeah.
You know?
Patriots fans would probably hope he goes to Pittsburgh because that's outside of the structure. They've had there's been ties with Russell Wilson to Cleveland. I think he visited Cleveland recently. There's been ties to Rodgers with the Giants. Like, that would be a disastrous scenario for the Patriots if those two things both happened. Then there's no way that, obviously by process of elimination, that both quarterbacks can go in the top 3. So I think you're looking at someone like Pittsburgh to take Aaron Rodgers would be better because that leaves both Cleveland and the Giants
Also,
in search of a veteran quarterback to eliminate the need
Right.
to take Sanders.
and then Rodgers has also been tied to Minnesota,
Which I don't really
which is
understand.
so wild because that's the exact path of Brett Favre.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Beyond,
right.
but like, can you
Jets.
guys? I mean, you guys are smarter than me. You guys always tell me these things. I don't look at them sometimes. I think that would be crazy for Minnesota. First of all, everybody knows what I think of Rodgers. Like, I just think he's a
Right.
bad teammate.
Yeah.
I don't think he has the ability anymore to overcome his bad teammate-ness, to make up a phrase. But if you wanted to roll the dice with him and just like, I'm not only going to bring that into my team that won 14 games last year, but I'm going to risk doing damage to my young quarterback who sat out his rookie year as a redshirt with injury. Like, that can't be a good situation for J.J. McCarthy to be in.
I heard about I heard a report on McCarthy that he's down to 170 pounds.
Supposedly he lost a lot of weight
Yeah.
after the surgery. He had to have a cleanup procedure.
Yeah, so they're not even sure he's going to be ready.
No, I understand the reservations about, I understand
Yeah.
why they wanted to entertain Sam Darnold coming back. Do you know what I mean?
Little gas on the tailpipe.
Well, he's just thought about taking Genty at 4.
Yeah.
I understand the reservations about wanting to, bring back Sam Darnold, as an insurance policy. I don't understand Aaron Rodgers as the fallback.
Yeah. I think that's all coming from Rodgers. I think the Minnesota buzz is coming.
For Kevin
it's
O'Connell's
coming
sake,
from
I hope you're
Rodgers.
right.
I don't see it either as a fit. I don't see the system as a fit either for him. The way they run their offense. I don't see that as a great Rodgers style system either. And I think that's all Rodgers would. Of course, he would love to throw to Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and the weapons that they have in Minnesota. Like it's clearly an attractive team to quarterback. Like you look at Sam Darnold did last year with that offensive system and those weapons, but I don't think that the Vikings have a ton of interest in Darnold. I think Darnold has a ton of interest in the Vikings.
I mean, Rodgers.
Rodgers, sorry.
Yeah. So, I mean, I do think that Rodgers is going to impact at least a couple of teams, if not more. And what does he say, Thursday?
And
He's
Cousins
going
is still out there too, right?
Cousins
he's
is
on
in Atlanta, but
Yeah.
I think he can be had. Yes.
Yeah, but they have a roster bonus situation going on
They
there.
gave it to him.
Yeah, so
He's still on the roster.
Yeah.
So those are the 3 vets right now. Is there anyone else other than Wilson, Rodgers, and
I mean,
Cousins who's
you could make.
still
I
under
mean,
contract?
not that you would want to start, like
And
you
Joe
know,
Milton,
like,
of course.
like, huh?
Joe Milton, of course, another.
But I mean, you have Jameis Winston, Gardner Minshew, not guys that you want to start.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that if you were a team that got left at the altar, you could sort of sell yourself on a Russell Wilson or a Kirk Cousins. But I don't know if you want to go into a year with Gardner Minshew as your starter.
And who is it? Tennessee, Cleveland, the Giants. Is there anybody else who is clearly without a starting quarterback?
I mean, like
right
the
now?
Raiders in New Orleans are long-term needs, right? Like they don't necessarily need a 2025 starter, but they're going to be in the quarterback carousel at some point, here soon.
I heard a report that the Patriots are asking for a 3rd rounder for Milton.
Cleveland's Cleveland plain dealer Tony Grossi, I believe, said that the price that the Patriots are asking for will be a 3rd round pick, which I think is smart. Yeah. I don't think they'll get it, but I think that's smart.
See, I would have asked for more. Like you can only be told you're crazy. Like why? Like why stop at a 3rd round pick? Like I'm not saying I'll ask for a 1st round pick necessarily, but like.
But how much weight do you give to the Grossi report?
I think he's a pretty,
like, did he get that from another team that inquired with the Patriots, and the Patriots said,
I don't know. He's a pretty respected guy who's been around for a long time.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a fair point. Doesn't mean it's fact. Yeah. But I just think it's a good. I mean, I think it's unrealistic for the Patriots, but I think it's good to shoot high. I think that he was a 6th round pick. He's a day 3 guy. You're probably getting a day 3 pick back for him. If you trade him, I wouldn't trade him.
Yeah.
Not for a day 3 pick.
Yeah, me neither.
You know what else?
I wouldn't trade him. I would hope that he can be the backup. I don't know that he can, and I know they signed Joshua Dobbs, but I don't. I would keep him.
I just want to bring up Chase and Higgins resigning.
Yeah.
With the Bengals. So I think that T. Higgins' dream
Didn't see that coming.
probably gone. It's kind of funny though how they framed it though, like the highest paid number 2 of all time. I think
that must drive you crazy
grease
with
it
your
up.
numbers and your letters.
Well, he likes running backs.
the
so.
best Z.
He doesn't like receivers.
And Kyle re-signed the
Wow.
fullback.
Yeah.
What was that? So would they just ditch his
There's a-
salary and then
yeah,
try to get him back
money
for
thing.
another?
Yeah.
Yeah, they just.
You
I
know.
didn't know you could do that.
I was happy for Evan because everyone was so
He started a
conflicted
loss.
last week.
They're blowing it
It's
up.
like, did Kyle really do this?
Kyle still knows ball.
I mean,
to
I had
Kyle.
a feeling.
Kyle did this to
I had
Kyle.
a feeling there had to be something going on.
Your whispers.
All right, let's go to Patty in Agawam. What's up, Patty?
Afternoon, gentlemen.
What's up?
Fred, can you give me a little bit of a vine because I did want to cover a few things. The first thing is, I'm sorry I said this the last year, and I'll say it again this year. I want no part of Brandon Ayuk. I don't think he's a number 1 guy. To me, it looks like after he got paid in San Fran last year, he looked and played like a turd, and then he ended up getting hurt. Sorry, I don't want him.
Okay.
I just want to be on record with that.
And I think the
Second
feeling's
thing
mutual for him, but that's
He
okay.
looked and played like how many games did he play?
That's all right. I don't want him. Second thing you were talking about, is there do you believe that the Titans are going to take Ward with the first pick?
Well, don't believe
Now,
it.
we said for many years, what did we say around here, Fred? Don't listen to what Belichick says. Look at what he does.
Right.
And I can't take credit for this, but I think I was listening to Bucky Brooks and Daniel Jeremiah, and I think Brooks brought up that said, like, GMs will lie to the media, but they won't lie with their wallet. And look at what they did in free agency. I mean, they signed Dan Moore Jr. and Zeitler, pretty much shored about the offensive line. And, I mean, everyone that I'm listening to is saying the exact same thing. They're shoring up the offensive line to draft a quarterback with the first pick. Might not be Ward. It could be Sanders, which would be crazy. But to me, I think Ward's going number 1 overall. Now, let's get to Deuce. I listened to a few podcasts last night taking shots at you two, Deuce. I don't think Genty would be a bad pick. Maybe in the future, like Evan said, once we get a couple pieces, once we solidify the left tackle position. But I think at this point, where this team is right now, I don't think he moves the needle because, I mean, if we can't open up holes, are you just going to run behind the right-hand side all year long and, not try and run up the middle? I mean, we need a center, we need left guard, and we need a left tackle. We need to solidify those positions before we can even consider taking a running back of that high value. That's all I got. I'll talk to you guys on Thursday.
Okay. Thanks, Patty.
See, sometimes, though, I just feel like we've lost the plot a little bit. It's just, I remember when I first started working here, and these kind of lines of like, we need a guard. We need a guard so bad. I'm like, I get it. I'm like, and that's kind of like the football thing to say, like, we've got to solidify the. But it's also just making the case that if there is a all-pro talent for the worst offense in football last year, that maybe it makes sense. Maybe, I know we didn't put it together and write the right way, but maybe it makes sense to draft a guy who's arguably, maybe, depending on how you feel about Travis Hunter, the second best offensive.
Yeah, people are hung up with the order of things. Okay, so maybe this year they only win 7 games, and maybe having the running back was, help you win a couple extra games this year. But next year, now you've already got that guy, and now you add the tackle, or you
can do it that way, but I can't. Like, you have to. The floor of the running game is the blocking. Okay, the floor, like how good your floor is blocking, scheme, system, and the infrastructure around the running back.
Yeah.
So the running back's the finishing touch. Right, Saquon Barkley in Philadelphia. He comes in and he takes their running game from a B+ to an A+ because he's really good. Okay, but if you have an F as your infrastructure to the running game, the running back is not going to make it any better.
Okay, for 1 year. But what if the next year you do add those pieces?
Okay, so we're just going to kick the can down the road on left tackle and receiver again? Like, we're just going to be having the same conversations again next
year? Might have to, though, regardless of Genty.
My point is, if there was a left tackle, if Orlando Brown was in this draft, it'd be a no-brainer.
Orlando Pace.
What did I say, Orlando Brown?
I think he was.
Yeah, Orlando Pace.
Brown was good, too.
Yeah.
No, I would not take him.
But if
not now.
If there was a blue-chip tackle in this draft, it would be a no-brainer. There isn't, though.
Okay.
And I think that this running back might be a blue-chipper.
Okay. You guys are higher on him than I am.
I will just say this.
All we're doing is, changing the order of things.
I hear what you're saying.
And I don't have any problem with changing the order. And I'm a little surprised, and Patty just alluded to this too a little bit too. I'm a little surprised with how many people are out on so many good players because, well, what good would that do? They're not gonna make a Super Bowl run this year anyway. Like,
right?
They're so lacking in talent that I think any players that you can get that will increase your roster's talent level in general, you should be in on.
But by how much?
Like
the gap between Ramondre and Genty is not the same as Vidarian Lowe and the tackle that you're going to draft.
I started the whole thing by saying this has nothing to do with Genty. Like, I'm just saying how many, T. Higgins is available. Patriots aren't ready for T. Higgins. Like, they're not good enough. Why spend the money? Now Brandon Ayuk might be available. I don't want Brandon Ayuk. He played like a turd last year. Like, I don't know what that even means. Like, he got hurt. He tore his ACL in the 7th game of the year. Like, so he's a turd now. Now, if you don't want him because you're worried about the knee, that makes perfect sense. I'm worried about the knee, especially explosive players like that. Oftentimes it takes a whole year,
right.
And a lot of times they don't get it back at all. So that's a concern. If you don't want to give up, to Evan's point, at what cost? If you don't want to give up the resources that it would take to get Brandon Ayuk, I get it. But people don't necessarily want these good players because the Patriots aren't in a position to get them. And it's like Mike said, it's all like a flashback to last year. You can't take Drake May because you're not ready for him. At some point, your sole goal needs to be, I don't care what position they play, and I don't care what it takes. We need to get better.
Yeah.
And if Fred's theory can come true and you can go from 4 wins to 8 wins, that's not acceptable to anybody.
Right.
It has to go from 4 to 12,
Right.
like Washington did. That's the only way you can rebuild 1 year all at once, bang.
Right.
We have to go from nothing to the NFC Championship.
Right.
Like, I think you just need to get better.
I don't think Genty makes you any better.
Yeah, and that's
Again, this is not
totally
about
fair.
Genty. This is
Right.
not about
Like, that's all I'm
If it's
saying.
Will
Yeah, yeah.
Campbell.
Like-
If it's Will Campbell, I'm fine. Like, this whole idea that you have to do it this way, I hate.
Yeah.
Because I've seen so many different teams do it so many different ways.
Right.
Just get better players,
Just
and,
get
and the
better
rest
players.
will take care of itself.
Right.
And I understand Evan's reservations because I agree with Evan on running back. I do. But if
I also just think
if
you have
Genty
to-
is head and shoulders better than Will Campbell and Tyler Warren, then I would take him. I don't believe he is. That's why I'm with Evan.
Right.
But if you thought that, I don't think that's a dumb pick.
Now, if you're telling me a better offensive line makes Drake May better,
And
it makes the existing wide receivers better,
and it makes Ramondre.
and it makes okay, I get it, I
Yeah.
get it, but nobody's selling me on these tackles.
Well, that's. I mean, I don't know. I can't sell you on the tackles any more than I've tried. But like, I think the other thing that needs to be said.
Are you picking Will Campbell number 4?
Yeah, I'd pick Will Campbell.
Okay.
Because I think that Will Campbell elevates the talent level of your offensive line. No matter if he ends up being a guard because of the arms, and he ends up being a guard, your offensive line is going to be a lot better with Will Campbell on it than it is without it. Right? And I'd say the same thing about Armand Membu, depending on which side he plays. Like, I don't think it, especially at that position, it matters less and less right tackle, left tackle, because there's a lot of really good guys that rush over the right side too. So, like, it doesn't necessarily make that big of a difference. But I think it also has to be said in a draft like this, like the running back class is absolutely stacked. So you're talking about a class that's going to have 20 plus guys drafted in the first 4 rounds at the position. So not only are we talking about is it the most valuable position to draft for the Patriots, but we also have to compare what's the drop off between Genty and the running backs that are going to go on day 2 and early day 3, and is that significant enough to take Genty at 4? Like, I think that out of everything is why I just can't fathom any team doing it.
Let's get Cam Scatterboo in the 4th.
Like why would you draft Genty at 4 overall when you could draft somebody at 38?
The only
that's just
reason
as
you
good?
would is because
Devin
you
Neal,
don't think
Kansas.
the gap is
Yeah, I
bigger,
like that.
and you think Genty is that good. That's
Right.
the only reason you do it.
Right, but when you combine the gap probably not being as big, especially relative to other positions and the gaps at those spots, with the positional value of running backs, like, it just inherently cannot be that big. Like, we just know that it's not that big, period. Like, Saquon Barkley is a fantastic running back, but even he is not that much better than like the 5th or 6th best running back in the league from a value standpoint. So even if you look at Genty and say he's better than Omarion Hampton or he's better than Cam Scatterboo, like, the actual impact on the field is not going to be felt. Like, you're going to have very similar comparable stats as long as the blocking and all that stuff is good. So the drop off at that position is just, there's just so many guys there. Like, you could list off, every guy that ran a 4.4 at the combine at that spot. It was like 10 guys in a row, you know.
But there were a lot of people, like, when you listen to him, Cooper Kupp. We talked a lot about Cooper Kupp. And Fred, by the way, I'll give you your flowers, as the kids say. There was a market for him, a bigger market than I thought it would be.
$15 million 3 years. That's
But,
crazy.
but I also think that there was some interest in him. I thought there would be 1 or 2 teams. It seemed like there was more than that, and certainly $15 million. I know that's fake money, but $15 million is a higher average than I was anticipating. So you were right on that one. See, I don't always just take my ball and go home. I actually sent that to Fred over the weekend when I saw all the Kupp. But people didn't want Kupp. Like, people didn't want DK Metcalf. Like, no, we're not ready for him. That's not gonna. We're not ready. We're not gonna. At some point, you just have to find a way to get better players to help your young players look better and progress and develop as much as they can. Linemen, absolutely. You need better linemen. You need better everything.
Better coaches,
People
better linemen,
were
better
complaining.
everything.
Why did they? It's all about the defense. Why is all the free agent? Because the defense stunk too.
Yeah.
They needed to fix the defense just as much as the offense. They went out and they did that. They got Spillane, they got Harold Landry, they got Milton Williams, Carlton Davis. Like, they needed those players. They're all going to start.
And those were lower hanging fruit. So, like, take them.
Yeah, it
Pick those apples, and then we'll go for the ones that are a little higher up.
It makes you
down
feel a
the
little
road.
bit better looking at it at 4 overall from that perspective of that they're probably going to get better. And I think, you just want them to hit the home run. You want them to take the guy that 5 years from now when you look back, you say,
Yeah.
he was staring us in the face and we
tell me who
tried to
that
pick a
person
need.
is.
And
know?
if it's Genty, you'll be mocking Evan and I. Absolutely.
I'll lay down my sword here in a second on the Genty thing, but like, how could it be Genty? Like, he's literally going to have to be like Walter Payton for it to be Genty.
At least
like,
I'll entertain the possibility. Evan won't.
Because I don't see the vision of, like, unless you're projecting that he's going to be LaDainian Tomlinson. Like, how is it
he's
Genty?
LaDainian Tomlinson, sign me up.
Right, but he's not going to be LaDainian Tomlinson.
You would have to think that that's who he's of that caliber.
Right. Like, if he's just going to be, the other comp a lot of people use for him is like Alvin Kamara, who's like a really good player. But, like, that's not
I like Alvin Kamara.
LaDainian Tomlinson.
But it's
like,
so funny. It just shows you the value of that position now. Because, like, for Will Campbell, we're like, man, as long as he's serviceable and he can play the position, it'll be fine. That's not the case with running back.
He's got to be a Hall of Famer.
He's got to be Walter Payton.
See, I don't want a serviceable tackle at number 4. Like, I wouldn't want Matt Light with the 4th overall
that's
pick.
who you're going to get.
Yeah, so I would be out if that's his ceiling is serviceable. I want the elite SEC tackle that played for 3 years and he can play tackle. But if they think his ceiling is just he could play tackle.
But
like,
I think
Matt Light was a really good Patriot for a decade.
Yeah, and that's what I think.
But he was a second-round pick.
Right.
I wouldn't have wanted that at the 4th overall pick. I don't think he was that level of a tackle.
But this year, that's what if you end up getting a 10-year tackle for your team out of this 4th pick, you're okay with that.
But is he just playing or is he excelling?
Well, he starts. He never loses the job.
Yeah, I think that it's a good point by Fred. It just
it's tough. I get it.
In this draft, and
I've
I've had to go through my own thing with this draft, and like I think Ted McMillan for me is probably the biggest one with this example. But like, it's just not a great year. So like Ted McMillan, no, he's not Malik Neighbors. Like, he's not Marvin Harrison Jr. as a prospect. But in this draft, other than Hunter, he's the best receiver in the draft. Will Campbell is not Joe Alt. Joe Alt is not in this draft. Like, but Will Campbell's the best tackle in this draft. So unfortunately, like, he's worth the 4th overall pick in this class.
Yep. Someone's going to go 4th. We keep saying it.
Right.
Hey, I got 2 questions for you, Evan. First of all, did you try to talk yourself into Ted McMillan in this mock draft?
100%.
You tried to get there, you couldn't.
100%.
And what's Bart's feeling on all this? I need to know Bart's feelings on all this.
Well, it was funny because when Coffee Boy there broke 448, and like that was the scoop that it was 448, he was texting me and like 448, oh
Sign
my
me
God, and I was like, there's no way.
He's too savvy to know pro. You just completely ignore a pro day time.
I was
that
like,
comes
there's
out.
no way he ran a 448, and
Probably at least a 10th slower.
Will
than that.
Campbell's going to have 35-inch arms on the pro day.
Yeah, so I like, this is jokingly, but I'll
like
text him
Inspector
like
Gadget.
like gifs of like sloths when he talks to me about Ted McMillan, like guys moving in slow motion,
Like when Jose Canseco called Will Clark a 3-toed sloth.
Yeah. Now I tried to talk myself into it, and again, it goes back to what I just said. You have to adjust your thinking to this talent pool.
Right.
Like, he would not be the 4th overall pick in last year's draft.
Right.
But I think what we see, even rookie seasons, last year's draft was a hell of a draft. Like, it looks like that draft is going to be one of the best drafts we've had in recent memory. So, like, you have to just adjust.
Those first 3 receivers.
All right.
really
We're going to take
Yeah.
a break. My food's here. When we come back, we got a ton of emails. Calls are stacked up. People want to get involved. We're going to do it right after this. Whether you're in the game or betting on the game, you'll need a game plan. DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the New England Patriots, provides you with everything you need to build your personal betting game plan so you can get in on all the action while practicing safe bets. Visit DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming to learn more about all the safe betting tools DraftKings has to offer. Hope is here, 800-327-5050 or gamblinghelplinema.org. Must be 21 plus. Play it smart from the start. GameSenseMA.com. Physically present in Massachusetts. See DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources.
Isn't it time to get exactly what you want? Welcome to Red Hot Deal Days from Verizon, where you get your pick of our best deals. Like My Plan, where you can pick the perks you want and save on every one. For limited time, bring your own phones to a Verizon store and you can get My Plan for our best price ever. Get exactly what you want in your phone plan and only pay for what you need. Bring your phones to your Verizon store today and get My Plan. These deals won't last. It's your Verizon.
With FedEx One Rate, you can ship to your student for a simple, predictable flat rate. Send a box full of home-baked treats that say, "Your father and I miss you." Or send a box full of instant noodles that says, "Your father and I would like you to stop asking us for money." Either way, one rate fits all. FedEx One Rate. 2-day shipping, one flat rate. Starting at $14.50. Visit fedex.com/one-rate for details. Exclusions apply.
I want to thank Robert and Jonathan's not able to be here today, but I want to thank them on behalf of just the coaching staff, I think the personnel, and echo Elliot's comments just about the support and the commitment that they've made just in getting this process and this just being able to build a program every single day and allowing us to have the resources that we've needed to do that, to provide our players with everything that they need to be successful on and off the field. So thank you, thank you, Robert. I want to thank Elliot. I want to thank his personnel department, specifically the pro scouts and that staff that really teed it up for me and the coaches to come in and evaluate as we work through the personnel stage and the preliminary stages of that. So I thought they did a great job. I want to thank them. Would love to thank Nancy Meyer and Stretch for kind of coordinating everything. Everything moves pretty quick, and they kept us in line, and they kept us, they handled travel and just the communication and getting everybody here. So I want to thank them. Would love to thank Richie and Mitch and Hallie, who are going to form our player engagement department, and have been able to just meet with these families and visit and help this transition that, there's going to be some new players here. There's going to be some new faces here, and that department is critical, and we want to support them. I want to thank specifically our little free agent group, which was me, Elliot, Ryan Cowden, Matt Groh, Richard Miller, that we were firing them off left and right, just trying to get back, touch, go, pivot, because everything happens pretty quick, and that was fun, just being able to, everybody, work in a different angle, getting the contracts done, communicating on that, going to plan B, and really it was fun, and we're excited about the players that we had. And you can see that, once you get to know these players and these men, that we're going to be just as excited as them off the field as we are on the field. But I want to welcome you guys. I want to welcome you guys to our Patriot family, and I think that we were all excited about getting you as players. But then when we met in the hallway and met your families, we're even more excited to meet your support system and understand why you guys are the way you are. And we're gonna support the things and the people that are important in your life. That's what we believe in. We believe in making connections and making sure that when they come to work here, that we're doing everything that we can so that we can put the product on the field that Robert talked about. That's a championship product, and that starts by investing in people. And I'm confident that we got the right people, and then now it's our job to put them in the right places as players to get the best out of them. And so I'm excited to start that process. So I guess I'll take a few questions as it relates to some of the players and what we plan on doing going forward. Karen?
Raise your hand, we'll pass the mic to you.
Come on, Karen.
In prior meetings with us, you've talked about wanting to support Drake May and protecting him with an improved offensive line. With the news of the release of David Andrews today, there now appear multiple holes to fill. Have things not gone according to plan, and are you now forced to draft for need in that area?
No, I think that there's a lot there, Karen. You mentioned David, and want to thank him having played at this organization, not quite as long as he had, but being here, I want to thank him for that, for being here and carrying on a tradition that so many great players before him had. We're going to continue to support, as Elliot mentioned, the needs that we feel like are on the team, and we'll target the offensive line. There's still quite a bit of time before we get to the draft, but there's also, we don't want to just be careless, right? We talked about there's a difference. We want our players to play aggressive. We don't want them to play reckless, and so we don't want to be reckless through this process. We want to be very intentional with the people that we bring on this football team, and we'll continue to target all those needs that we feel like and the players that can help us.
Thank you.
Hey Mike, with Milton Williams, there was a report that he was close to signing to another team, and I think like an hour or so later, you guys finalized a deal with him. Can you take us through the emotions of sort of that swing, and what was it about Milton that made you guys feel comfortable to give him the deal you did?
Well, I think it's always about the entire package. When you look at compensation, right? It's the body of work. It's what they're going to do for us. We always want to be able to, not rely on past performances. But that was something. There's a high ceiling and a great vision about the person, the effort, the skill set, the speed in which he plays. There's a power. So certainly there's an aggressiveness, and being able to add him to our defensive line is something that was really exciting. But you talk about the character, and hopefully we're going to be able to. I hope you want to play more than they played in Philadelphia, and I know that you guys were extremely successful, but we want to play him a little bit more than that, and hope we can do that. You just try to you do your best in a short amount of time to make a connection with the player and kind of what we are, right? We don't want to sell anything. Like, what we want to sell is just who we are. It's not, we want them to want to be here, and then if they want to be here and we want them, we'll figure out a way to make it work contractually. But we want people and players that want to be here, that want to be a part of what we're doing, and that's what these guys are, and there'll be more that come along after them.
Hey, Mike.
Hi, Tom.
You mentioned you didn't want to be selling people, but the reality of having had 2 unsuccessful seasons and then ending up at the top of the draft, you had to make some kind of a pitch to convince guys, and we'll certainly ask them about it too, but what was your main pitch to say, hey, I know it on paper has not been positive the last 2 years, but this is what we're building? What was the main thing you were articulating to these guys and convincing them?
I mean, just who we are as people. That we're gonna care about them. We're gonna push them. About the team, right? You have to target the right player. Making sure that our vision and want them to help us build a program that when the players walk back in here on April 7th, that they're proud of, that they want to protect, that they call their own. Just what we've done and the relationships that we try to make and what we want to build the entire player around and put them in good spots. And I think we've been able to put some players, specifically Milton, put players like that in our history of coaching in good spots to be productive and make plays that can help the team win.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Sophie.
I was just curious, there were the reports about you guys going after Chris Godwin. Obviously, he re-signed with Tampa Bay. I'm curious what your thoughts are or what your plan is at the wide receiver position and how you plan to address that, whether it's free agency or the draft.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about any of the other players other than the ones that are right here and the ones that are currently on our football team. We'll continue to target. Matt Collins will be in here tomorrow. He's a wide receiver. But we'll continue to look at the wide receiver position as it relates through free agency, explore every option with other teams, and potentially, then we'll get to the point where we're looking in the draft. And there's just a lot of time, and I know that everybody's like, it's over at free agency. It's never over. And Zoe's, wherever Alonzo is, I don't know, but he keeps reminding me and I think everybody else that because he's been around a lot of times. He's like, there's players that are going to come available, whether it be now or whether it be in May or after training camp. Like, it's just, he's like, I've seen it enough to know that there's going to be someone that's currently not on our roster that's going to help us win a game this year. He's not in Foxborough.
Hey, Mike. What do you remember about Robert Spillane when he first came to Tennessee as a tryout player? And just what do you think about the career that he's put together since then?
Well, I mean, he was just, you couldn't, we went out to practice, and he didn't make any mental errors. He was athletic. He was excellent in this open field tackling drill. Did the same thing the next day, did the same thing on Sunday. It got to be a joke where we would just keep throwing him in and be like, hey, let's see if somebody can make Spillane miss. And then, John Robinson and I were just like, we have to have him on the football team, and I think he's earned the right to be here based on those 3 days. And, Robert may or may not share this story, but we told him, and it was on Mother's Day, and he got to call his mom, and it was pretty special, especially for me being a young football coach or a young head coach, to be able to see a player that had earned the right. Like, we didn't hand him anything. Like, that's what we want for every single player on our team. We want them to earn everything that they get, and that was an example of what he earned his opportunity into the National Football League. So that's no surprise of the career that he's had based on how it started.
And now, great moments in history.
Sam's in San Francisco. They don't like it when they say San Fran.
Yeah.
Really?
I don't like it.
San Fran?
Frisco, I thought they didn't like.
Oh, you're right. Frisco, they don't like.
They don't like that either.
They don't like Frisco, and people in
surprised
Oregon
this-
don't like when you say Oregon.
San Fran, what's wrong with that?
No, I'm
it's
sorry.
Frisco.
He's
This
right,
way.
Frisco. You're not supposed to say Frisco.
What is wrong with
San Francisco, talk about Frisco. No.
Between this and you're analyzing Bill's
Fine.
hoodies, I just don't get
Oh,
it.
the Bills hoodie thing is the tamest thing he's got going right now.
I won't forget you, Brady.
Yeah, I guess I should tell. Back, this is a side story, but back when Brady got hurt in 2008, I made a video, and I should probably share it with Matt. It is on YouTube. I made a music video set to the tune of Poison's "I Won't Forget You, Baby," but I made an "I Won't Forget You, Brady" music video that was very,
Yes,
very
and you
bad.
still hired him.
But I was saying, if and
That
when
didn't come up on the search.
No.
That's another great moment from
Patriots Unfiltered is sponsored by the Massachusetts 250 campaign, commemorating a history of possibility. Plan your revolutionary weekend at massachusetts250.org.
Go to
there
Lexington
you
and
go.
Concord, do the Boston Tea Party shit.
Yeah.
Just like Mike Still,
History.
like you play these old clips and it's just like singing aimlessly in the background.
He was meant for Broadway. He really missed his
I
calling.
crushed it as Luther Billis in South Pacific in 5th grade,
Yeah.
and I'm still trying to get back to that point.
really
The-
should have
the
been
5th
on
grade
Broadway.
play.
Evan just looks at me and he goes, "So he was always like this."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see you, being King Arthur in Camelot.
Oh,
Camelot.
Here we go.
This one's for
Thank you. I
Mike
needed this
Dussault.
after. Actually, maybe we should use this to read some mean tweets.
This one's for Mike Dussault. He made his name in blogging, and he's a youth hockey referee. And don't you ever forget those 28-3 tees. He's last in the picks, and he's sneaky negative. But he knows his hoodies and he knows them good. Did you know that he used to live in Hollywood? Okay,
Here we go.
this one's for Mike Dussault. Yeah, here we go. This one's for Mike Dussault. Okay,
Here we go.
he's sneaky negative. Okay,
Here we go.
this
They
one's for
can't play it
Mike
too much. That's
Dussault.
great. Do you guys want to hear some tweets?
I would love to hear some mean
So
tweets.
these are mean tweets?
I wouldn't call them mean. Maybe some of them are, but I call them more angry tweets.
Well, the one I sent, the one that you're going to read from me is mean.
Oh, there's one. Yeah, there is one that I included from Paul, but I screenshotted some of these. So, in no particular order, here's one. I'm still pissed y'all post this. Never associate with Mike again. That's not too nice.
Wow.
I will.
That's not mean.
Y'all.
I
lost
will.
an associate.
I will commit seppuku at the lighthouse if that happens. That was from Fat Mac Jones. So it's at Fat Mac Jones if you want to hit him up. If we
So
draft
Mac
an
Jones.
RB in the first round, I will personally show up in camp and fling feces at Vrabel. Good luck, Marty the Party 82 on that one.
Pretty big dude. I don't know if you want to
Delete this and fire whoever Mike is.
Okay. See you, Mike.
I want to fire Elliot Wolf for you even posting this. That's a
Oh.
good one.
Oh.
Mike is an idiot. Just
Yeah.
straight to the point,
Agreed.
Haha, the first pick is just to torture PFW Paul and see if he will get up and leave in the middle of the live draft pod. Pretty close.
Good stuff.
Now this one,
You
this
have to
guy,
take
this
Evan's
guy went next
shoelaces
level.
away
This
again.
guy went next level. This is not real. Trying to throw other teams off. So
He thinks that
I'm
smoke
doing the
screen.
bidding of the front office.
Right,
No, they're
right,
telling
you're
me.
a plant.
Mike, who? This is worse than drafting Sony Michel in the first round. Would it be?
Could be.
And then the last one, best mock I've ever seen. Well done. Genty is the only choice at the first pick. There you go. Some angry tweets.
You're welcome.
Sonny
I
Michel
sent you a
seems like
nice
good
one.
comment.
Oh, did you?
So when I checked last night, the Patriots tweet that had your graphic had over 500,000 views, and so I imagine it's probably over 1 million right now, right? You really
I'm trying to
you riled up the nation.
Try to start conversation. But no, I appreciate all the everybody reaching out. So
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Great, thanks. Wait for my next mock next week.
Yep.
I'll get something totally different.
All right.
You're gonna trade up to two to
855
take Jets.
500 is the hotline. Podcast@patriots.com is the email address. Let's get some people off the phone here. Christian's in LA. What's up, Christian?
Hey, you guys. How are you doing today?
Great.
Hey.
Meh.
All right, great. So I'm gonna dive right into that. I know I'm probably 2 shows too late, but I've been trying to get in. But I just got to say this, and I'm going to use an analogy of you can't use limes to make lemonade. Yes, it'll be limeade, which is kind of like lemonade, but it's not lemonade. And what I mean to say is, with no disrespect to Mike Vrabel, I think what he's done is going to boost our defense, and we're going to win some games possibly because of our defense this year. However, it seems like we're trapped in this weird, like, Twilight Zone thing where we think defensive coaches are going to ever fix or give us a great offense, right? We had Bill Belichick, and yes, he was the greatest defensive coach ever, but he also happened to have the greatest quarterback ever. And as soon as the greatest quarterback left, Bill couldn't really win. We went from that to hiring a defensive coordinator to fix the offense, and that was a disaster. We went from there to hiring a first-time coach who was a defensive player to fix the team and the offense, and now we've gone to a guy, and again with respect to Vrabel and what he's done so far, in his last tenure, decided to trade premium offensive players to try to help bolster his defense, which got him fired. And now in his first move, really here in New England, whether it seems he had a choice or not, he bolstered the defense first. And now we're going into a draft where it seems like a premium talent, at least value-wise, is on the defensive side.
Well,
even with the 2 guys that we want the most, like Hunter and Carter. Is it possible that it's just something that we're rooted in?
No, and I hear what you're saying. But you can't forget, and you can criticize them for not getting the job done, but they tried to throw big money at offensive players. They just didn't get it done. So I don't think that they did try to bring in some really high-priced offensive players. I don't think they're ignoring it.
Do you guys think that having an offensive-minded coach would even change the strategy of who we go after on the offensive side and how they feel about us? Like, if I was a premium offensive player, I would not be excited to go to a team that's a defensive-focused team with a guy who doesn't know how to coach offense.
But where are you getting that from? Like, we're a week into free agency. Like, this is kind of starting to bug me just in general, not with Christian. But
Thanks for the call, Christian.
But like that they're neglecting the offense. There's an entire draft that still is yet to come. And I understand that a lot of people don't have a ton of trust right now in their ability to draft. But like, if we're going to sit here and hold N'Keal Harry and Tyquan Thornton and these guys against Mike Vrabel and Ryan Cowden, who were in Tennessee coaching an entirely different team, like, I mean, we're gonna hold Aaron Dobson against them too, like, and Chad Jackson, and we'll go right down the line. Like, I don't see how that's relevant. So like, they're gonna address the offense. They're gonna take big swings on offense. It might come through the draft, and you might all be wary of that. But this offense they're not gonna put this offense on the field in September. Like, they're gonna have additions to the offense come September. So I don't think that it's an offensive, like they're neglecting it, or that he's only able to coach defense. And like, he didn't get fired because he traded A.J. Brown. John Robinson got fired because he traded A.J. Brown.
Right. Christian does have a point that's valid, is if you had an offensive-minded head coach would that be more attractive to maybe at least one of these guys that they swung and missed on?
Okay, so I'm going to step back for a second. I do. There's no way of knowing that for
Yeah,
sure, but
I don't know.
I
Yeah.
do think that is probably part of the equation. But I'm just going on this year because that's all I can go on is Mike Vrabel, Ryan Cowden, Elliott Wolf, and how they're trying to put together the 25 Patriots. There wasn't a lot. I mean, I'm not even going into my old argument of the defense needed just as much attention as the offense, because I think it did. But where were the opportunities lost specifically on offensive players? I would say that most of the good offensive players that changed teams were trades. Like, I think DK Metcalf would have made some sense for the Patriots. And to my knowledge, and you correct me, they went after Chris Godwin.
Yep.
And didn't get him.
He stayed put.
Who else did they go after?
Cooper Kupp.
Did they?
I think they were in on it. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, then they should have gotten him because it didn't cost that much.
Well, all the reports said that they were in on it. So
the report said they were interested, but did they go after him?
I don't know. I mean,
so
what do you mean by interested?
I don't think
know.
that's
Yeah.
like, to me, that's not a difference-making player. I would have taken Cooper Kupp, but I think DK Metcalf could be your number one receiver. Cooper Kupp couldn't.
Yeah.
But
well, he would be right today.
He'd be their number one,
Yeah,
but not
right.
a number one.
No, yeah.
So my point is, I don't think they had a lot of offensive options.
Right.
I unfortunately don't think there were a lot of great offensive options in the draft either. I think Evan's right. They will take some. They'll probably get some. They'll get another receiver and probably a running back even. At some point in the draft.
Maybe
and,
4 overall.
And they'll if Genty's available.
Yeah.
They'll add some pieces on offense. But just because they didn't add it immediately doesn't mean they're neglecting it.
Right.
No, that's
So that's why, like, I'm in the middle. Like, they have not necessarily gotten the guys, and I'm a little tired of they went after Calvin Ridley. They went after Brandon Ayuk. They went after Chris Godwin. But whatever. Like, I've heard that about the Red Sox for 5 years.
No, I know.
Like, they need to make some changes. They need to add some talent. But I'm not, willing to just say, well, this is Mike Vrabel, and he's a defensive guy, and he doesn't want offense. I think that was true with Bill. I think Christian's argument against Bill in that regard was accurate. I think Bill said, I want to have defensive players, and Tom Brady will fix the offense, and he'll do enough on the offense. You don't have that luxury anymore. No. But I'm not here to tell you that that's what Vrabel's doing. I want to give it a little time before I start criticizing him for not getting offensive players, because I don't think they've missed out on a lot of guys.
People are getting impatient. At the end of the day, no matter what they do, like you said earlier, the odds of the Patriots being able to do what the Commanders did last year are long. You're not going to build this team to a playoff caliber team this year, most likely.
Yeah.
Most likely.
Now they could if everything works.
Everything has to work.
If everything works, they could be a playoff contender.
Right.
I honestly believe that. I'm not trying to play
but
a
lot
role.
of ifs have to become reality.
If Milton Williams is the same player at 75-80% play time as he was at 45%, if Harold Landry goes on the Wayback Machine, if Robert Spillane turns out to be this sideline-to-sideline whirling dervish that he looked like he was in Vegas, and Carlton Davis stays healthy, then I think you have a chance to beat sort of the Clevelands in like the lesser teams in the AFC that you lost to last year, I think become wins, and that goes from 4 to 8 or 9.
Yeah.
In my view, because I think the schedule is light.
And
on
then when
paper.
December rolls around, you're in it.
Yeah. I think that could happen.
There's a path.
I just feel like everybody, the first week of free agency ended, and now the roster building's over. Like there's no way that
So I'm in the middle on that. I think largely it is, but there will be a guy that you don't know, to Evan's point, that'll be on the team, and he'll probably play a role.
But can we just at least wait until April 27th before we jump off the bridge that they have no offense? Like, if Travis Hunter's on this team on April 24th, then we're all going to look like idiots.
Right.
Like, just relax.
Right.
Like, just let's see what happens at the draft.
Yes.
If they get to the draft and he goes like Bill did a couple years ago with Gonzo and Keon White and Marte Mapu, and when they go defense again at the top of the draft, then have at it. Then sit there and say they neglected the offense.
But do you think there's a chance that could happen? 'Cause
No.
I do.
No.
I do, and I wouldn't necessarily criticize it. If they think that, like, the Georgia guy, let's say that Hunter and
Okay, maybe at the top
for the
of the
purpose of
draft.
this, let's take Carter and Hunter off the board.
Yeah, Walker or Williams.
Right. So if one of your Georgia guys is the pick, and then all of a sudden you get in the second round, and I'm not as up to date on all the slots for all the prospects, but all of the guys that you like at receiver are off the board at that. You don't want to reach.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden there's maybe another edge player or something else. I don't think that would be a terrible way to go. Where you get in trouble is reaching for need.
Yeah.
You don't
think
want to do that.
If you flash back 2 weeks ago, a lot of what we said was this is a really good free agency class for the defensive front seven, cornerback. Those specific positions, those are both positions that they went and added, some quality players at. And we knew it was going to be competitive at tackle and receiver, that there were only a couple guys really available. And, once Ronnie Stanley was off the board, everyone was just acting like Ronnie Stanley, like that's the plan. It was
not a great free agent crop, especially in my view on offense.
And
I'm not stunned that they didn't get difference-making players on offense.
I'm just realizing for a lot of fans, I think, kind of what Christian was saying, that it all carries over. Like all the problems, everything, like you don't put it down and leave that with Alex Van Pelt and Gerard Mayo. It's all carries over when you have back-to-back 4-win seasons, no matter who was in charge.
And would I feel
I get
better?
It's frustrating.
Would I feel better if they signed Cam Robinson? Yeah, I probably would. But the reality of that is you're probably not all that much better. Like, I would feel better because he's an NFL tackle, and they don't have one.
A left
on the
tackle
left
now.
side.
Left side.
They have Morgan Moses, my new life coach. But I would feel better with Cam Robinson. But I'm not here to tell you that. Well, your left tackle problems are solved, because I watched those last couple of games last year, and it would scare the crap out of me.
I mean, your left tackle options in free agency besides Cam Robinson, we're paying Dan Moore Jr. $40 million over the first 2 years of his contract. And, that's being graded out as the worst contract handed out in free agency by pretty much everybody.
Yeah, everybody's in agreement.
Yeah, and so I'm not saying don't criticize. Just can we give them a second before we criticize? It's not all over. The draft happens, draft day trades happen, draft day weekend trades happen. Stuff happens throughout the process.
So I'd love to know from the Christians of the world, if the Patriots draft Will Campbell with the 4th pick, will they be happy with that?
No, because they'll move the goalpost again and they'll say he's a guard.
But if he is a guard, I would, and I felt like Christian does, and I don't. I think, like I said, I'm in the middle of Christian and you. But if he's a guard, then I wouldn't feel great about that.
Okay.
If he's a tackle, I'd say that perfect.
I mean, on the day of the draft, their intention is to play him at tackle. Are the Christians of the world okay with that?
I would think so, yeah.
I would hope so.
They need a left tackle badly.
I would hope so.
I just feel like we're holding things from past regimes against Mike Vrabel. It's not Mike Vrabel's fault
that
Bill couldn't draft receivers.
You can't throw it totally out because Elliott Wolf was part of past regimes.
Yeah, but he doesn't. I personally do not think that he's running the show.
Yeah, I think he's a big part of it. Come on.
Absolutely, I didn't say he wasn't a big part of it. I just don't think that
it's all his work right now.
I don't think that it's his final say.
Right.
And
I mean, his scouts and his department did all the work up to this point, up to the point that you brought in Vrabel.
What did Ryan Cowden do?
Well, he did his own work for another team.
Right.
But it's not always the same. Your focus is a little bit different, maybe. I don't know.
But am I wrong to think that there might not be a wow, that's the guy confirmed answer at left tackle and number 1 wide receiver this season? That's the place I'm in. I don't know that there's going to be.
I understand.
I know that's hard pill to swallow, but.
And listen, I'm not teasing. I'm not making fun of my guys, my shows, okay? Because I understand they're doing they have a job, and they can look at it at black and white. They took almost entirely defensive players in free agency, so that, in their view, means they're neglecting the offense. And I can't tell you that that's wrong when they signed Morgan Moses and Mac Hollins, right? Those are the only 2 offensive guys. Did I miss one?
No.
Wes.
Oh, the
Wes.
Shizer.
Yeah.
We should probably go over those. The official announcements of more signings.
Yeah.
So on paper, that's fact, right? Felger likes to say scoreboard, right? Facts. It's
right,
but it's nuanced. It's not just black and white. They're neglected. They only sign defense. That means they're neglecting offense. That means that was the opportunity that presented itself.
That was the low-hanging fruit.
But he also has no time for the draft. So I it's hard for me to listen to him say those things and then know on the other breath that every single time you bring up a prospect in the draft, he puts his nose up to it and says, well, he could stink. Well, like, yeah, like obviously he could stink.
And free agents may not work out.
Right, or you could take DK Metcalf in the second round and he could turn out to be DK Metcalf.
Right.
So like if we come out of the draft and they've done nothing to add talent to the offensive side of the ball, then they'll all be right that they neglected the offense. But until we get
and
to
I
that
think there's
point,
a chance that could happen, but not because they, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if this is a great offensive. Yes, like it might work out that like Mike said, is there a slam dunk wide receiver or left tackle to choose from? So if you come out of this without guys at those positions, does that mean you neglected the offense?
I think I don't know if I would use the word neglected, but you should be able to find. You want to call them dart throws, call them dart throws.
You
but
will.
you should be able to make top 100 picks at wide receiver and tackle.
And you will, but that doesn't mean that you've solved. You know what I'm saying?
It doesn't mean it's
that's
solved.
all. That's
it doesn't
all my
mean
point
it's solved,
is.
but you should have an infusion of talent at those two positions.
So real quick, we did have the Patriots officially announced a few more. Though I don't know if we talked about K'Lavon Chason last week.
Yeah,
Edge rusher from a first-round pick, a guy who I happen to love coming out of LSU, who has been okay. Hasn't really
best year last year. I think he had 5 sacks.
Hasn't been great. Safety from the Raiders, Marcus Epps.
That's correct.
Right?
Marcus Epps. Yeah.
And
hurt
then
last
the
year.
offensive lineman
yes,
was with
and
the Jets,
I
right?
got the pronunciation.
Wes
Scheitzer.
Scheitzer.
Scheitzer. S-H-Y is the pronouncer. Scheitzer.
S-H-Y. What's the rest?
T-Z-E-R. Scheitzer.
Scheitzer. Wes Scheitzer.
Who's started a bunch of games.
That's kind of like Max Scherzer, a name that I cannot say.
Yeah, he's been in and out of interior swing backup, getting thrust into starting roles. He's kind of like a little bit like Nick Leverett was last year. Maybe a little more experienced than Nick Leverett last year. But I mean, I said to Evan, I look at this front now, and to me, it's Landry, Tonga, Williams, Chason. That's your starting front four for this defense to me right now.
Yeah, unless Christian Barmore's healthy.
Yeah, so that's 11 guys that they've signed. I think all of those have now been made official by the Patriots. I don't think I missed any of them.
No,
right?
I don't think so.
Just a couple of things to update in terms of bookkeeping. Daniel Aquale signed with Pittsburgh, so they lost him as a free agent. Interesting tweet I read yesterday that Christian Ellis, who is a restricted free agent, received a tender from the Patriots, the non
right of first refusal.
Non-compensation. So Christian Ellis, I evidently is visiting with the Raiders.
Yeah.
So my guess is if you're visiting, you're probably preparing to give him an offer sheet of some sort, and the Patriots will have a decision to make whether or not to try to retain him if they do.
Yep.
Good for him.
Okay.
So that's the up-to-date
Christian Ellis.
transactions on my handy little cheat sheet.
All right, back to your calls. We'll go to Kendall in North Carolina. Hey, Kendall.
Hey, how you guys doing?
All right.
Yeah, I would just, it's my question for Fred, but like all of y'all can answer because y'all always on set too. Fred, where did you see the report that Rodgers was going to make a decision Thursday? I've been looking.
I was listening to one of Paul's shows today, and they said on the Pat McAfee show.
That is not one of my shows.
No. Okay. On your show, they said on the Pat
even though
McAfee show.
Even though he made fun of me on that show.
No.
Not my show.
No, I'm not saying. But they mentioned the Pat McAfee show on your show today, saying that Rodgers was going to be on Thursday to give his decision.
Oh, okay. Because I had been trying to Google. I hadn't found anything like that.
Yeah.
I thought they had said that last week too, but he
and the
wasn't on
McAfee show would know about Aaron Rodgers. No one's in bed with him more than that show.
Yeah. So I don't know where they got the report, but that's what I heard. Yep.
Oh, okay. Because I've been looking everywhere. I couldn't find anything. But I guess we'll wait till Thursday to find out.
Yep.
And y'all think if Russell Wilson goes to the Giants, how y'all feel about that? Do you think they still take Shador at 3 or what they do at 3? And now take it off. Thanks.
Okay. No. Thanks, Kendall.
I don't think if Russell Wilson signs with Cleveland or the Giants, I don't think that either one of those teams would then take Sanders.
The only way, that it would happen to me is like with Penix with Kirk Cousins last year. Like you would have to think that he was truly that dude. Like he's a franchise quarterback, and you just can't because you can't pass on him. And that's what happened with Atlanta.
Yeah, and I thought that was a really surprising pick, even with all of that. And they might have ended up
being right.
Although I'm not sold on Penix, but they doubling down, having something behind for insurance turned out to be a good move. I could see a team a little bit later on, maybe the Raiders are this year's Falcons. The Raiders traded for Geno Smith.
Yeah.
They're going to give him the deal. He's going to be their starter for the now, but I could see if they really liked Sanders and he was available, they could still take him. I don't think they would, but that would be kind of similar to the Falcons.
It's just it's often a copycat league, and the Falcons, it really worked. That they did, if they hadn't done that, then they would have been really screwed at quarterback with the way Kirk Cousins looked last year. So it wouldn't be surprising if one of those teams said, well, the Falcons did it, and it worked out for them, so we're going to do the same thing. And
it is a copycat league. Let's go to Andrew in KC. What's up, Andrew?
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Hi.
Sorry. I am really intrigued by the idea of trading Joe Milton and something else to get a package for something that's worth more than Joe Milton by himself. So I wanted to run a couple of scenarios by you, see if you think these are realistic, or if I'm just living in a fantasy land. So the first would be to trade Joe Milton and a 4th-round pick and pick up Broderick Jones from the Steelers. Get a little bit of a reclamation project, who's still probably better than anything else we have. And then the second would be to trade Joe Milton and a 3rd to try to move up to 3 with the Giants and make sure we get Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. What do you think either of those?
Joe Milton and the 3rd to trade up.
A 3rd-round pick. Basically, you're trading a 3rd-round pick to move up a spot in the 1st round. I don't know. Is that enough? It might be. In this draft, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I think there might be other teams. If that team's willing to move, there might be other teams willing to pay more than that.
This will be the next thing that I'm proven grossly wrong about. Joe Milton's trade value. I don't see it. I just don't see it.
I mean, I think his trade value could be, you draft him in the 6th, could you get a 4th-round pick for him?
My guess is it'd be a future 4th-round pick, which is really a 5th.
Right. Or the Patriots' best case scenario with Joe Milton in terms of value is for him to go ball out in the preseason again. And I shouldn't say again.
This year.
Ball out in the preseason this year, and then trade him at the end of the summer for a team that gets desperate and has an injury or something like that at quarterback. But even then, I think you're looking at, what did the Patriots get for Brissett? Philip Dorsett, right? Like, you're looking at a trade like that, like it's a 3rd, 4th receiver that this team doesn't really want.
Two players that were both going to get cut.
Yeah.
I mean,
got traded for each other. And I know that with certainty the Patriots were going to cut Brissett.
Like, real question, who's the number 2 quarterback on this Patriots team with Dobbs in the mix now? I mean, who's actually the backup quarterback?
My guess is Dobbs.
No.
And I think of it, and here's where, I'm not willing to say that, the Christian, the call that we got from Christian 10 minutes ago was completely wrong with regard to Vrabel. I look at a guy like Dobbs for Vrabel, and he's like, that's my kind of backup that's a safer backup quarterback. I know him a little bit. I have familiarity with him. He came in. Do you remember, was it Vrabel's last year or his second to last year? They had a winner-take-all last game of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And they had no Tannehill, and Malik Willis had played a little bit, not very well. He just brought in Dobbs kind of off the street and started him in that last game. And Dobbs played reasonably well, gave him a shot to win that game. I think he likes Dobbs, and I think he thinks of that as a safer alternative.
I mean, for a backup quarterback, it's not.
Yeah.
It's your backup
Plus, it's different than Jacoby. He's kind of kicked around a little bit. He's never really been the guy or had any. Jacoby still seemed to me like he wanted to be the starter here. He wanted to stay in the starting lineup. I don't think.
Yeah, that's it. I'm going to look that up. See how many games
with Dobbs
he started. But yeah, I agree, Mike.
To Evan's point, I'm just interested to see Joe Milton play in the preseason, to see him play in training camp, get out there. I mean, I don't know how much we talked about it, but everybody reacts to what he did in that last game of the season. But to me, he looked pretty good on 7-on-7, and as soon as it became 11-on-11 and there was a pass rush and there was actually some kind of coverage to read through in training camp, he looked pretty lost. So, I mean, credit to him. He looked like he made remarkable strides, but how sustainable and real is that based on just one game at the end of the season where Buffalo's kind of mailing it in? I don't know, but everyone wants to overreact on it. But I'm just curious to see him in camp.
15 starts.
He started
for
15
Dobbs,
games.
Yeah. So not as many as.
I just look at that last game against Buffalo, and that's why it melds all together. Like, it's a preseason game.
Yeah, right.
Like,
right.
he played well in the preseason game at the end of the season, for all intents and purposes. If he does that again 2 or 3 more times in August, then maybe he would have some value.
And I do think, and it's like I can be talked into it either way, because if you think he's really good, and that was the tip of the iceberg of his development, then you hold on to him. But if you still kind of think, oh, geez, we didn't see that coming. Where did that come? Well, then his trade value is not going to be much higher. So that's what you're weighing right now.
Yeah, you might be selling high right now on him.
Exactly. like to Evan's point.
Like every Joe Milton thing that you heard about coming into the draft, where he duped 2 really big college football programs into thinking that he was going to be the next big thing in Michigan and Tennessee. And then they get him there, and you start to peel back the curtain a little bit, and you're like, all right, this isn't what we thought it was. Like, that last game of the regular season is classic Joe Milton. Classic.
Awesome guy. Like, loved hearing from him. And like, I mean,
I
he's
think
just
a pretty
a unit.
thoughtful guy
I mean,
too,
the flip. I mean, he looks like Cam Newton out there. I mean, it's not that far off from just what an Adonis that guy is, and the way he throws the football. It's just, I mean, it's intriguing. You can understand why all these teams are taking chances on him. He's got all the tools in the toolbox.
Mike's a sucker for physique.
I am.
That's
well, you know,
that's how
y'all
you get
know
a
me.
full
He is,
ride
but
to
like even like
D1.
Big Ben,
He's
you
a
know,
ball
like he has
knower.
that huge stature, mobility, the big arm. Yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of traits to like. I'm with Evan. I'm going to need to see more before I forget about the college experience. But like, I agree with the way Evan said that about the preseason. Like, and a lot of people have been like, well, that's more valuable than the preseason. I don't think it is. I think, matter of fact, you can make an argument. In the preseason, there are guys desperately trying to forge their way into the NFL. In that game, there were guys desperately trying not to get hurt and get off the field. Like, I don't think there was as much, like...
Making business decisions.
There wasn't as much urgency in the second half of that game as there was in a typical preseason game.
He has one of the best arms I've ever seen.
There's
no doubt about
It's
that.
amazing to watch him throw
That
the ball.
one throw
and how effortless.
Was unbelievable. That was a rocket that didn't go more than 4 feet off the ground, a straight line for 50 yards.
And it's so effortless when it leaves his hand. I mean, he's impressive to watch.
Norm in Daytona Beach writes in, I think the problem with the negativity of the fan base is they listen and believe the crap that some of the sports talk shows in Boston spew out. Doesn't matter what the Patriots and other sports teams do. It's never going to be good enough. They just love to criticize everybody and everything. See, Paul? My God, give Vrabel time and a chance to rebuild this roster. As I'm writing this email, Evan is saying basically what I'm typing. They took players in free agency on defense because there wasn't much on offense to pick from.
Paul actually said that, but that's okay.
But like, I'm not even using that excuse for him. Because I would have traded for DK Metcalf. Like, I think that was right there for them for the taking. I'm just saying, like, can we at least get to after the draft? Like, if they come out of the draft and we still feel like we do now about the offense, then I will criticize them too for the way that they handle that side of the ball. But let's just show some patience, because they could have Travis Hunter on this team in 6 weeks, or they could swing a trade on draft day, that lands them a big receiver. Like, let's just wait and see what happens.
The trades intrigue me, but I still just think, even if it's with the draft, that there's probably going to have to be some patience. And like, there's not a surefire left tackle in this draft. So unless they pull a trade off that we don't really see coming at this point, there's going to be a leap of faith with an offensive lineman in this draft. If you're expecting that somebody's going to come in here and solidify that position, it's just, I mean, I do all these mock drafts. It seems it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to thread that needle.
Kelly in Salt Lake, I'm sure Mike has caught hell for Janty at 4, but I honestly don't hate it. I think the biggest way to ease the pain on Drake without getting a wide receiver 1, as the ball knowers say, is to make defenses play the run. If they can have a back who can catch the ball in the backfield as well as run through contact, they can build the base of the offense and maybe, just maybe, be good enough to entice a wide receiver next year.
Thanks, Kelly.
Yeah.
So, just to recap, Mike should be fired. Mike's a moron.
Yep.
Don't ever do this again.
Mike's a little smart.
But the one on his side, I don't hate it.
Yeah. I like it.
Nope, I don't hate it.
I don't hate it. There were a couple of those. Wait, didn't you say? Barth. I don't know what Barth's reaction, but Cadlick seemed like. I think Cadlick just likes chaos. He just wanted the chaos.
They want the chaos. they're vouching for you because of the chaos element.
And what was
for
the
sure.
radio thing? Were they really talking about? Did you say they were talking about on the radio?
You're just, there's
Yeah.
some scuttlebutt about you
Somebody
around town.
scuttlebutt?
Yeah, some scuttlebutt around
Idiot.
town.
Kyle and
What does
Pembroke,
Deuce know? You know,
I don't like
nothing.
going after Deuce like this, so I'm going to do a compliment sandwich, okay? Deuce, you're very funny and often get a laugh out of every show. However, the joke you made in your mock draft about the Patriots drafting a running back at 4 in the first round wasn't funny, but I know it was just meant as a joke. Well, that you're wrong. However, you are a smart man who knows ball, so I can't wait for your serious mock draft 1.0 to come out.
1.5.
He's not totally wrong on that second part, but it wasn't a total troll job like Fred said. I mean, we talked. We had a good talk about it for an
There's
hour.
some reasoning
I mean, it's
behind it. While I agree the Patriots should draft a running back, I think it should be a day 3 pick, not the 4th overall. With how heavily the Patriots went on defensive free agency, I think the draft should lean offensive, and McMillan at 4 makes sense, as well as trading up from 38 to get Ursary late in the first round. What do you guys, especially Deuce, think about this?
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to be creative with the left tackle. I mean, that was the other thing. Like, when I do these mocks, I just use the PFF one, which is obviously wrong. I mean, Ursary is not gonna be there in the 3rd round, so I just think I want to see them target somebody. I think, like, speaking more towards feeling better, there will be a leap of faith with some of these guys. But I think if you really felt like they really wanted this guy, they packaged some picks, they moved up, they got back up to get somebody, rather than, all right, the Jalen Poole thing where this is the guy that fell to us and he's fine here. Like, I don't think they can do that. I think they need to be targeted, and I think the fan base needs to know that they have a plan at those 2 positions, right? Like, but it's just hard at wide receiver. I don't know. Early second round, not much there. Not much to choose from.
I just wonder if at tackle, like, the bar might just be serviceable.
Yeah.
For a year, like Brendan Coleman was last year for Washington.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
not a
why I would
stud.
feel better if Cam Robinson just signed a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
Serviceable.
Right.
What's he doing, though? I mean, he's out there. He's a name. He's a left tackle.
I have to think that the market's not good for him, but
is he going to wait till somebody gets hurt or something? And
just if they can get, even if it's a day 2 tackle, like if it's just a guy that can play the position at a functional level, then I think that's probably good enough for all of us at that spot. Like, you're not drafting that at 4, but if that's who they pick at 38 and 69 or whatever it is, then there you go.
Oh,
then sure.
We can't trade that pick.
Speaking Fresno writes in, sorry there's no rabid dog barking in the background of this email, but nonetheless, during
that is some nice color.
During Kendall's call with the Pat McAfee show reference, I was sure Fred and Paul were about to get into an argument about what is or isn't one of Paul's shows. Alas, it'll be an all-time argument that never was. Anyway, question for everyone not named Evan. Do you ever feel like you need to convince yourself to care about a lot of the chatter going on at this time of the year?
Yes.
I always feel inclined to sit on my thumbs and just wait for it all to shake out, but wonder if you guys feel pressure to fluff up the fluff here in mock draft season. I think it's fun.
I just think they're fun. I mean, I don't, I like getting to know the prospects. I like, it's always fun to me finding a little gem or, you just, like, names come up and you look at them. I don't really, like, systematically early on go through some of the top guys, but, then you just kind of listen to what people say, and, someone will say a name you didn't really, who's that guy, and that's what I find fun about it, just finding these little gems, and then you get a few years down the road, and this guy's actually a player. Like Jake Bobo, just as a stupid example of, a guy like I know I'm not trying to take a victory lap on Jake. Believe me, most of it was comedy.
He was better than a lot of people thought he was going to be.
But like that's the kind of stuff that happens where people are like, this mock draft is stupid. This guy would never be there, and that's just one easy example of something when nobody has any idea. I mean, the guy's picking the picks barely.
Yeah, I try to, like, once the combine hits, I try not to change my opinions too much, like, because we don't have all these measurables and stuff like the teams do. So once I know that, like, I don't really, the fodder and all that stuff, like, I try not to sway too much once that happens. But yesterday I was watching guards, and a couple of those guys stood out. Now I learned a little bit about guards yesterday.
Bill in San Diego. Paul, what's your
Bill?
issue with Matt Light? He was an 11-year starter who made
like
3
Matt
Pro
Light.
Bowls and a first-team All-Pro in his career. Are you seriously saying that if someone told you that will be Will Campbell's trajectory, you'd pass it for?
Yeah.
What exactly are you holding out for? Nate Solder was a first-round pick. Would you prefer whoever the Patriots get has his trajectory?
Yeah.
No.
Paul.
Good.
Solder and Light would not
acting
be
right
good
there.
enough for me at 4. I would agree.
I think that you have to adjust your thinking of what the talent level is at the 4th overall pick.
Yeah,
I
and
think
I
in
also
most
don't
years
think
it
you have
wouldn't
Tom
be-
Brady, so I don't think that Matt Light would have been to 3 Pro Bowls and named All-Pro without Tom Brady.
Right, but
I watched him play against Jason Taylor.
I think in this draft, if Will Campbell turns out to be Matt Light or has that trajectory, maybe not the Pro Bowls, but is an NFL starting left tackle for a decade,
I'd be happy
you've
with
done
it.
very well.
I need him to be a good starter.
And Matt Light was a good starter.
Ish.
Oh, come
Ish.
on.
He was okay. He was okay.
I think he's a little overrated
He's a
locally,
lot overrated.
but he was. I'll take him in.
And I like Matt Light. I like him a lot personally, but I just think he was okay. I think you could do better than that with the 4th overall pick.
In this draft?
I don't know. I don't have
well,
to take a tackle.
But that's the thing. It's
There's
all
no
about
but
this
there's no
draft.
tackle. Like
I know. Paul's right though. It's and
there's
I
no
think that's
tackle
what-
worthy of being taken with the 4th overall pick. So take somebody else.
But it seems like there's nobody.
That's what.
There's nobody.
I mean, that's what Daniel Jeremiah is saying is making this
I'm
draft so
going to make
fascinating.
Evan faint. I'd rather have Genty than a tackle if there's no tackle at 4.
Welcome to my show. No,
Okay.
but
I wouldn't take Genty either, but like you could tell me about the Georgia guys.
Yeah.
You could tell me about Tyler Warren.
But like Jeremiah, I was listening to Daniel Jeremiah talk about like from basically like 10 to 40. It's kind of like, what do you like, you know, and how good is your scouting staff at projecting how good these guys are going to be? I think it's going to be a really unpredictable draft for that second half of the first night and into the
I
second
think the
night,
same
you know?
5 offensive linemen, I think there was a year, I want to say 07, that like 4 of them made the Pro Bowl. You could have that same 5 be the offensive line right now, and none of them would be Pro Bowlers. Tom Brady made those guys Pro Bowlers.
Yeah, I
Well, no doubt.
Daniel Jeremiah is like everybody's trying to tell everyone the same thing about this draft. Like, I would actually say it's even further up. Like he said, 10 to 40. I'd say it's like 4 to 40. Like a lot of this draft is going to be fit, like positional value, need, scheme. Like, you know, is this guy a scheme fit? Is he not a scheme
Coach
fit?
him up.
Like it's not one of those drafts where there's such overwhelming talent at certain positions that you're just saying that's the best guy on the board.
Right.
It's gonna have to make sense for your team.
I got a question for. I want to ask Paul a question.
Oh.
Why is it so hard for Patrick Mahomes to find a tackle like Matt Light?
I think he had one, but the Chiefs were too cheap to pay him, and they let him go. Orlando Brown was better than Matt Light. They let him go.
No.
And I think the Chiefs are exactly like the Patriots, and they just say, hey, Patrick, make do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thanks for playing my side of the street. It's proof that you don't need that to win if you have the talent at other places.
Right. If you want to win the Super Bowl, it does.
Oh, I know. They've only won 3 of them.
Yeah.
They haven't won all 5. Admittedly, they could have won all 5.
They haven't won the Super Bowl.
If they had
offensive
Orlando
line.
Brown for all 5 of those years, maybe they would have won all 5. But they didn't because they cheaped out. And you get what you deserve. Clark Hunt, that's why you finish at the bottom of the list.
Let's go back to the phones. Sean's in Vancouver. What's up, Sean?
I have a couple questions. With the signing of Schweitzer, do you think that's a depth, or do the Patriots see that as a starter at left guard? And then the other question I have is in regard to the free agency. The Patriots had lots of needs, and I'm pretty happy with what they've done in terms of free agents because they've addressed a lot of them, most of them. And when I say address, I don't mean they solved them. We don't know, but they seem to go after a lot of free agents that could start. And there's 2, though, areas where we haven't addressed them. And they're the biggest need, which is left tackle and starting top wide receiver. Do you think they'll address those before the draft happens, like with Cam Robinson or Amari Cooper? Or do you think there's trades going to happen? What do you think they would do before free agency ends, or actually not ends, but when the draft actually starts? So I'll take that offline.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks a lot.
I mean, I think they'd be smart to try to, like, I'm with Paul on, like, sign Cam Robinson, even if it doesn't make that much of a difference. But I'm open to some of these receivers, the older guys that, you know, the Steph Diggs, the Amari Coopers of the world, that I just don't know what else there is out there. And I don't really see with their draft position how you're going to land either one of those A-plus kind of positions in this year's draft. Like, it just doesn't line up for me. So I think they need to try to find some kind of answers before the draft so that you don't go in thinking, like, we need to find a starting left tackle in this draft. Like that seems like a really, really hard position to be. Even though they might do it. I was Scheitzer. I'd pencil him in as a starter, but I'm just looking at that as, in a perfect world, Layden Robinson beats him out. You know.
Yeah, I think that's.
Is he a starting caliber player?
Not anymore.
Really, but
I think he's a camp tryout. Honestly.
I think
he's gonna be.
Throw him in.
He's gonna have to make the team. But yeah,
I just look at it all like competition, and we're praying to God that our young guys emerge. But here's a veteran who's played some games and see how he stacks up.
And people have been throwing that Minnesota guy who got released, Garrett Bradbury.
Yeah.
You know, maybe
maybe
he's a center. I mean, I said to Mike yesterday, like, Minnesota won 14 games last year. He's making less than $5 million as their starting center, and they cut him.
Yeah, he's
like,
not been very good.
He was right next to Ben Brown in the PFF grades. It was like
can't be very
0.2.
good.
No,
because that's pretty cheap for a starting offensive lineman on a good team.
It also just makes me wonder, like, well, then what are you doing with Cole Strange, Ben Brown, and Jake Andrews already on the roster if you don't have any kind of confidence that three guys?
But they got to fill those three spots.
You know, emerge.
It's a really good guard class, especially when you factor in the tackles in college that are probably all going to move inside to guard. So one of the better, I would say, probably the strength of the draft on offense besides running back is guard. So I don't think you have to draft it high, but like if you draft a guard in the 3rd or 4th round just to kind of throw into that pile with the names that you mentioned, then it's just another piece of competition.
Let Doug Marrone cook.
I'm all for it.
Doug cook.
Yeah.
Tyler in Georgia. I agree with Paul that the current staff has not actively neglected the offense, and I agree with Evan that we shouldn't hold past regimes' mistakes against Vrabel and company. However, in defense of those losing patience for offensive developments, it feels like receiver and right tackle have been towards the top of the need list going back to the Obama administration. Whether or not there was a realistic solution in free agency, that feeling of still needing those positions and finally building an offense that can actually score points is hard to shake.
I agree. It's hard. I think people would feel better if the offense was a lot better and the defense needed addressing, because you feel like you can win games that way more consistently. But I go back to, I don't have a blueprint that says you have to do this, and this first and then get that. Whatever you think presents itself, and I think this year Milton Williams was the best guy available in free agency by a lot of people's opinion. Right? He was the best free agent available. He happens to play defense. The Patriots got him. I don't see the need to criticize for improving the talent level of your roster, regardless of position.
Dave in Maine says, I'd like to hear everyone's opinion on what Bill would do with the 4th overall pick if he were still here, assuming he can't trade down. We'd have to get a phone on the beach first and ask him. He's been spending time on the beach lately, right?
I think Mason Graham.
Defensive lineman.
I mean,
someone in the trenches.
I might say Will Campbell.
I would have said Will Campbell, but I think he probably would have an abnormal thing on the arm length.
No, he'd say he can overcome it.
Yeah, I think the opposite. Like the whole 6'4", 4'6" thing, outside linebacker, doesn't matter if you're an elite athlete. If you're not 6'4" and run a 4'6".
But then again, we wouldn't have Drake May, so
maybe
you know. We'd be looking for
that's
a quarterback.
You probably wouldn't have Drake May. That's for sure.
That's what I was thinking. Is what if they took Joe
But you probably have
year?
J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah, if they took Joe out last year, what would the Patriots thinking be right now at 4th overall? No quarterback, but a left tackle.
Pounds?
I think he's lost weight. I don't know.
That's what I heard.
I'm going to trust his 170. I heard that he's dropped some weight. And I think he had to have like a second procedure to clean out the knee.
I mean, I
hasn't been able to
hope
work
that
out.
he plays eventually, but.
All right, let's get back to these callers. We're going to get them on. Eldred, North Carolina. What's up, Eldred? You want Tet McMillan?
Hey, fellas. How y'all doing today?
Good.
Hey, Paul.
Yes, sir.
Y'all sleeping on Milton, man. And let me tell you why.
On who?
Milton.
Because I'm looking at NFL Milton, Joe Milton.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that.
NFL
You're right.
NFL Network with Darren James, they're talking about if I was the Giants, if I was Cleveland, I'd trade to go to the Patriots and get Joe Milton because I played against him, and that boy is something else. And he's better than what's in the draft. And I heard that more than once from everybody. And if they're talking about him on the network, I wouldn't trade for a third. You're going to give me a second.
So remind me, he was a 6th-round pick?
Sixth round pick.
Yes. Why did all these teams pass up him in the draft and all of a sudden they're in love with him?
Not only was he a 6th-round pick, but
like everybody else, they didn't know until they figured
Eldred, he was in college for 6 years. Like, how do they not know it? Like he
So one half of a game.
I would even say if he had a great summer and then he got a chance to play in the game, he had a terrible summer.
But he got better.
He got better.
He might have gotten better, but
He played well in the first half of the last game of the year.
He might have gotten better. He might have gotten better, but like everybody's had a chance to evaluate Joe Milton. Like they had him.
Well, they evaluate him now, and like even Baldinger and everybody else just talking.
There was
They ain't talking
6
about
years
just
in college. He was
yesterday.
at the
The
Senior
last couple
Bowl.
days,
He played in the
they talking
preseason.
about it's a
Like,
better-
this is not.
It's a better quarterback than what they got now.
Listen, I hope
got
all
1
these
year
teams
left.
love him that much. You know.
But that's what they talking.
Yeah.
But like I said, but that's.
And I really don't care what he is compared to Cam Ward. Like that doesn't that doesn't matter to me at all. I only care if he's an NFL player or not. If I think he could be a really good NFL quarterback, I would keep him. I don't care if he's better than Shedeur Sanders or not as good as Will Howard. It doesn't matter to me. It only matters to me what I think of him.
Yeah.
Well, everybody else still think it's because he played in the NFL. You know,
right.
like I said,
Yeah.
he had that little thing.
He
But,
played. He
Evan,
played one game.
Yeah.
Like, would you?
I'm gonna take
Who's
my
that
picture
guy
now,
that
Evan.
the Seahawks gave all
Matt
that money?
Flynn.
Matt Flynn. Would you take Matt Flynn? He played a great.
Flynn.
He had that great little run there and got him a free agent
Started
contract
with
in
the
Seattle,
Patriots.
and a third-round rookie who's 5'10" beat him out. It's Russell
All right.
Wilson.
Thanks, Eldred.
Pretty
Let
good
Russ
quarterback,
cook.
Russell
It was
Wilson.
before he was Russell Wilson, though.
But I mean, like
Baseball
you have
player.
a large
UNC.
sample, like maybe one of the largest samples you could possibly have on a player with Joe Milton up until this point. Like the guy was in college for 6 years. Like he had ample opportunities to start at Michigan and Tennessee. Like this is not a prospect that's taken everybody by surprise.
But
Like,
Eldred is right. He classified me. I am a non-believer, and I think I said about a half hour ago, this is going to be the next thing I'm wrong about. I just don't see it. But there's a million things that I could give you a list of that I was wrong about. This could be the next one.
Chester's in Portland. Hey, Chester.
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for squeezing me in here at the end. Time for a little call of crime, all right? This one goes out to Mr. Tax Bracket, Christian in L.A., a.k.a. Chris with an STFU. This guy's short-sighted analysis is absolutely making my blood boil. You know, the whole goal going into this offseason was to build from the inside out, starting with heart, character, and then obviously literally its position. You know, getting Williams, Moses, Spillane really solidifies our D. And, you know, we've been playing from behind for so long. I think we can finally flip the script here. Now, you know, as Evan said right after the call, you know, we've got the draft. We've got a lot to look forward to here. But I got to tell you, man, Spillane really gets me fired up. We need a guy with a motor that's passionate. You know, he's got a lot around him, but, you know, I feel like we got another Ninkovich type of a linebacker back there to really set the tone behind the D-line. And, you know, I'm feeling really strong about that. Another thing, the elephant in the room to me, guys, is, you know, where's Josh McDaniels in the conversation of having an offensive mind on this coaching staff? I feel like things are going to get back to where they need to be in terms of orchestrating a competent offense. I'm excited about this. You know, we got to build it running back. I think we go late, try to get a guy like Cam Scatterboo. That's another passion guy, and, you know, hopefully he can fit in. But, listen, I'm all in on getting excited, optimistic. Let's go. Let's get to the pro shop. Let's buy some apparel, and that's all I got. Over.
All right. Thanks, Chester.
It's got to be
Spillane jersey.
like a Vrabel guy, doesn't he? Like
that
a
14
football
jersey.
player.
Let's
you
go.
know, just
Let's go.
I like it.
rip
Bring him
people.
in.
They need to improve the offense if they're going to do what he said, though.
Yeah.
If you're going to start playing from in front,
Right.
they need to find a way to score,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. He mentioned
Like
Morgan
having a
Moses
good
as
defense doesn't give you a lead.
Yeah.
Let's just
Maybe
May
you're not
1st.
down by 3 touchdowns like you were last year, but you got to find a way to score in these games.
You can all complain about the offense in May 1st, okay? Like if they get through the draft and we're still in this position.
And even then, there's going to
we're
be
gonna
some
realize-
changes after that. You know,
But
guys
you
come
still-
available.
You still think that? It's just so funny.
It happens. It's always happened. There's a lot of history there.
Who's the guy they got last year after that?
I didn't say every year it happens, but it's
Who's
happened.
the guy they got the year before?
Cam Newton. Was that the Cam Newton year?
We can't
Cam
judge
Newton in
anything
July.
by the last 4 years
That's
of this
what
team.
that's what you get at that time of year. Cam Newton.
And at the time, our heads were exploding, right?
No,
we had
but-
an emergency podcast when we got him.
We did, but that's not for the same reasons.
Yeah.
It's not because we thought the offense was fixed.
No, but it was exciting to get a former MVP. We know.
Just like
I do
imagine
still watch the news.
on draft night, if they do get Travis Hunter on Thursday night, and I believe that the plan will be to play him at wide receiver.
At least try him there first.
That changes this.
Then
to
all
me.
of a sudden, like all these like people neglecting the offense, it's like not so much.
Sit
right?
down.
So just chill out.
Well,
Right. And
there
that's
we
what-
address the defense and the
And that's what
offense.
Felger keeps saying. I'm not going to get them in trouble for things that they haven't done yet.
Right.
That's one of his stupid crutch phrases that he uses all the time. But like, if they do that, and he's the best wide receiver in the draft, like everybody says, and the Patriots view him as that,
boom.
Right? The Patriots are on record. Well, not record, but there's reports that indicate the Patriots believe he's the best corner and wide receiver in the draft.
Right.
Right. So if you draft him, like Evan said, at 4.
Is he the
there's your-
generational
there's
talent
your
that Mike
playmaker.
Vrabel was talking about?
There's your playmaker.
Sign me up.
Okay.
You want Genty? Stop.
I mean, if he's still on the board.
What would you give to go from 4th to number 2 in order to get Travis Hunter?
Joe Milton.
Cosign. I would give Joe Milton for that.
Would you give up 2 threes?
Just not 69.
I don't know what.
Sure.
I don't know what it costs to move up 2 spots in this draft.
Yeah, I don't either.
Like, I don't want to say like, oh yeah, I would give 2 threes to find out. Like, what are you kidding me? You could have given up a 5th to do that. Like,
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know those numbers off the top of my head.
Yeah. So, all right.
That's fair.
All right, well, that's going to be it for this edition of Patriots Unfiltered. We'll be back on Thursday with another show. Catch 22 is tomorrow at noon.
Yes.
Okay, so catch Barth and Evan on that one, and I'm sure they'll have some lively discourse. So we will see you Thursday.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.
The world's original podcast.